Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the 327th edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I'm your host, Steve Wellings, and joining me on the call, we have Andy Patterson, Ozzy Smith, Gabe Lewis, and Dave the Hater Lowback. Just had a message coming up saying this hangout is live. That's good. Hangouts on air are going away later this year. Well, hopefully they don't go away too quickly, and we'll be able to get through to you for the rest of the evening, couple of hours or so, 2.5 hours usually. Lots to be getting on with this week. We'll be moving on to Josh Warrington shortly against Kid Galahad. Plenty to be said about that fight. Eastern Europe was stealing the weekend with fights involving Kudryashov and Makabu, and that farcical events in Latvia with Bradis going in against Glavaki. We'll no doubt be discussing that one, and a couple of guests, Bellew of the Weeks, and much more. Let's start off in Las Vegas, though, shall we, with the heavyweights. Tyson Fury knocking out Tom Schwartz in the second round. We often say, Andy, if you've got an overmatched opponent, the least you can do for us, for the fans, for yourself, is to get rid of them. That's what Fury did. He looks very comfortable, I think, as a southpaw. He can move well for a heavyweight. But one thing I will say to you, Andy, is the ESPN hype train is going into overdrive. Yeah. Is it justified? Is it somewhere in between?
No, it's somewhere in between, mate. ESPN, especially, I think it was Joe Tessitore, it was on comms last night for the ESPN. He's always been like that. Obviously they've got their own fighters and that. Fury's the ESPN fighter, he's the house fighter, so he's going to be getting the big hype. I know people were like lineal champion, or lineal counting, sorry, I should say, last night. How many times it been mentioned. I know it was even broadcast at the bottom of the screen that was, for a lineal heavyweight title. But other than that, yeah, as you say, I mean, we knew what the fight was. It was shit. The opponent, I suppose, tried everything he could, way out his depth, way past his class, and it's what you want to see for the guys who are on the elite level, so to speak. Deal with their opponents like a bad habit and drop them. Schwartz could have easily have bailed after the first knockdown. His nose was in a bad state. I've seen lesser fighters bail on even less. I mean, there's a Russian fighter on that card this afternoon bailed because he didn't fancy it. And I don't know why he got dropped off, actually, but that's another topic. But to say Schwartz could have easily bailed, but decided they kind of gut to it for a wee bit longer. But I think that was a broken nose. But yeah, I mean, what else can we say about the fight other than the fact is that Fury's dealt with his opponent how we expect him to deal with it. Or we wanted him to deal with it. I can't remember what my prediction was for last week, actually. But yeah, it was just what it is, isn't it? A keep busy fight of sorts, and we're going to spend that's all the top three heavyweights now supposedly free, but we know what's going to happen. We're going to end up a lot more ding dongs and fucking verbals back and forward between all three fighters, and then we'll end up fighting. No, this year at least anyway. But it's looking like early next year if possible. But yeah. Interesting to know what the pay-per-view figures were for it, actually, for BT Sports, but I can't see many people staying up at 4 o'clock in the morning paying for that, to be honest with you. I suppose the best thing about that fight last night was probably Fury's ring entrance, and I'm being kind because the guy didn't really put up much resistance, and we didn't really expect him to either. Again, Schwartz is probably a victim of the sanctioned body politics, and unfortunately, the ranking and points, again, it just shows you, we all see records is for DJs, but rankings, some of these rankings that we're seeing and stuff like that just are not fit for purpose. We could sit here and generate a whole podcast towards these rankings and break it down division by division. Just isn't fit for purpose. So yeah, I don't know what we're going. I don't know what all the lads else are going to say, actually. And the fact is, it was what it was. Poor.
Tell me one thing, Andy, because you mentioned it there about this lineal championship that's been added in to add a bit of legitimacy. I mean, are you on board with this? Because Fury took the lineal championship, didn't he, off Vladimir Klitschko? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And who did Klitschko take it off, though? Because wasn't it Lennox Lewis before him? I mean, you're looking, 4 or 5 years, aren't you?
If I recall, I think he beat Chagayev, who at that point was the only other belt holder at the time. Apart from, obviously, I think Vitaly held the WBC title, so that fight was never going to happen. But I understand that Chagayev had been off with that hepatitis problem. He finally, right. and then he was meant to fight Vlad, and then he pulled out. Chagayev stepped in, and then he got iced in something like, I don't know how many rounds, 7 or 8 rounds, whatever it was. So Fury's then beat Klitschko. However, what I would say is this: I can understand both arguments. Clear as day is this. Look, people are going to say, well, he retired, he got the belt stripped off him, so the second you retire, you fail to become the lineal champ. But then I always put up Ali as the case. Ali never lost his title in the ring, but the title was suspended. Joe Frazier and George Foreman then became the lineal champions, and then Ali won it back, right? So you could see. So what I'm saying is, Ali was technically stripped because he's in activity, a bit like Fury. So how can I put this properly? You will get people, probably the haters, detractors, will say, for both fighters, Ali and for Fury, will say he's not the lineal champion. However, they have got their proponents who will say he never lost his title in the ring, and if he returns, he is the man. Listen, but we need to remember as well as there was back in the times that fighters would be out the ring for 3-4 years because of the war, for example. They were still classed as a man when they came back to the sport after the fighting was done. So it's a tough one, but it depends what camp you want to sit in, really. But I can see both sides of the argument. To me, I would probably say that he's no the champ because he's retired. He's gave it up, but he's come back to try and get it again. I really don't know. I mean, as I say, I can see both arguments.
Okay, thanks, Andy. We have our first guest of the evening on the line now. It's friend of the pod, Steve Wood. How are you, Steve?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you, mate. I'm just over in Portugal in the sun, had a few glasses of wine, getting over some last night's, I don't know how to describe it, really. Let's see how this conversation goes, eh?
Let's see, indeed. Obviously, you're talking about Josh Warrington against Kid Galahad. Try and describe it as best as you can, Steve. What's your emotions now, thinking back?
Well, you know what? Looking back at it, I probably should have expected to be how it was, but really and truthfully, I was looking that he was going to be a good fight. I was expecting Kid Galahad getting a great opportunity and getting fantastic money because obviously because of what Josh Warrington brings and the fact that Eddie Hearn wanted Josh Warrington back on Sky and he's putting a big bid in and Frank Warren didn't want to lose it for BT, so he put a massive bid in and he was earning a load of money, probably more in one fight than he's earned in his previous 25, that he'd come and have a fight. And he was so disappointing that all he did was hold. And really and truthfully, probably for the last 24 hours I've been feeling a bit down, but now I'm just getting to the reality of it, that it is what it was, and it was always going to be like that, and I should have realised that before the start.
Yeah, a few people would obviously say Galahad went in with a style he felt best suited the occasion. It's his prerogative to box how he did, but do you then think he paid the price with the judges' scorecards?
Well, one of them gave him the win, which I just can't believe. And obviously, I've said previously as well, I was so disappointed with the referee for Edwards that he let him get him away with the tactics. You know, he was putting his head in right from the start for the first 2 or 3 rounds. Then he was reverting to holding, which was a tactic. And I think at the end, he was holding because he needed to hold, not because he wanted to hold. He needed to hold, otherwise, you know, Josh would have finished him because the stamina and the pressure was starting to tell. But I just feel sorry for the people who's paid a lot of money to watch that fight, and he's come and he's not fought. And you know, I've just seen a little clip from Prince Naz, who's from their camp, and he's actually turned around and said, Josh, it's not right that someone comes to spoil the nose and doesn't want to throw any punches in. And I know you like to throw punches, and he was so disappointed. And I think that sums it up for me. Even their side are kind of saying how poor he fought, and for people to think he won that fight, I just can't see it at all.
Well, I'm going to break it to you, Steve. I actually thought that Galahad did enough. And what I would ask you is, early on, I thought Galahad was landing some pretty decent punches. Do you think he was spoiling and holding throughout the fight? I thought it was the last few rounds where it became really egregious.
He was sticking there in the first couple of rounds. I think he could have had a point took off him that. 3, 4, 5 onwards, he was holding and he was arm locking him and he was shoving his elbows over his face. You know what I mean? It was like a wrestling match, and I don't know how you could even think he'd done enough, because the only single shot, I bet it's a combination in the 12 rounds. You know, he stunk the place out, and he's bad for boxing that he's got an opportunity to win a world title and he doesn't even try.
And as for Josh, though, obviously onwards and upwards for him. He's beaten Selby, he's beaten Frampton. Now he's got rid of Kid Galahad. I mean, what's next? He's obviously spoke about his desire to maybe hit America, maybe the Vegas Strip. What are you going to look to do with him?
Well, we're hearing that Frampton's got the Valdez fight. Apparently he's got a kidney on August the 10th, and after that it's straight into him and Valdez. So I think that one might be a difficult one to make this year. So obviously we'll be asking Frank to go for Santa Cruz, who's number one. We're ranked at number two, so it'd be an indication, and maybe even a ring belt. So that's what we want. We've done everything we can now, so we want to fight the best.
Just putting Josh to one side, then a few other scraps of interest last night. Your man, Zelfa Barrett, got a win over Leon Woodstock, and also a good win for JJ Metcalf, stopping Jason Wellborn.
Yeah. I mean, I think a few people thought he was going to be a lot closer than Metcalf and Wellborn fight, but Wellborn's proven his durability, but he's not really a class boxer. And I kind of said that JJ has been an ABA champion. He can box as well as dig it out, and he'd have too much for him, and that was proven on the night. And obviously, a few people were doubting Zelfa after his Ronnie Clark performance, but they don't know the background of that, and I do, and I knew that Zelfa was going to show the ability that he's got, and I think he was a shining light last night.
One of our guys wanted me to ask you about Reese Mould's upcoming English title fight with Sean Davis. He said Reese is Josh's sparring partner and trained by Josh's dad. He has a very aggressive style, but Davis is his biggest test to date.
He is his biggest test to date, but we believe Reese can go on and follow in the footsteps of Josh Warrington, and I don't think Sean Davis is good enough to stop that. If he has, obviously Reese isn't as good as we think he is, and I think that Reese after this one and one defensive English title can go and win the British and move on very similar to Josh's career, and certainly challenge for world titles.
Just remind our listeners, we have Steve Wood on the call at Steve Wood VIP over on Twitter. Not going to keep him for too much longer. He is speaking to us from his holiday camp. Tell me about this show in Oldham then, Steve, August the 3rd. Who's on the card? What can we expect from that one?
Yeah. I mean, I was doing it on July the 6th as the last show of the year, but at the end come to Manchester, and obviously don't want to go against that, so I had to put it back to August the 3rd. So all my local lads there will be getting an outing. So you're looking at Kane Gardner, Akin Fiaz, Andy Kremner's coming back, and we're hoping to make him and James Moorcroft in the new year. A few VIP fighters will be put together in the new season, and I'm really looking forward to that. And you know what, it's been a long season, so it'd be nice to close with a good event, yeah.
And you've just signed your first female fighter as well, Rhiannon Dixon. Tell us about her, Steve.
Yeah. Well, I'm a male chauvinist pig, and I've never tried to deny I'm not a lover of female boxing, and I probably don't agree with it. So I'm probably a bit two-faced signing a female boxer, but you know what? I've been watching Katie Taylor, and she's kind of impressed me. A few other people have signed females, and I know the TV like putting the female fighters on. So when Lee Blundell come up to me and said, "Look, I've got a good girl, and I want you to look after her," it was difficult for me to turn it down. So yeah, we've got our first female fighter, and if everything goes right with an application, she'll be on a show that I'm doing in Oldham on the 28th. Sorry, not Oldham, in Bolton on the 28th of September, which will have Jack Flatley defending his English title, yeah.
Final couple for you, Steve. Any other big opportunities, any news for your fighters coming up that we should know about?
Do you know what? There's a few things in the pipeline that I put into the board, but they didn't get put through this week. So hopefully within like 4 weeks' time, we'll be cracking on. As you say, Reese's fighting for the English title, which will be 4 VIP fighters winning the English title in the last 6 weeks. So I think that's the start for next season. That got English champions, and we're going to try and make them into British champions. Liam Taylor's fighting for the British title in September at the Copper Box, and then hopefully Mark Leach, who's just won the English title, is going to get his crack at the British bantamweight. So I'm hoping for another progressive year for the IP next year.
And just finally, Steve, someone in our chat is asking about Scott Fitzgerald. He said, as he got injured, is Cheeseman next? What's the deal there with Scott Fitzgerald?
It looks like that. The deal we've done was that Cheeseman could have a volume shot, and we was going to have a fight with Brian Rose, and then it was going to be Cheeseman in September. Scott had a good training camp out in Tenerife, and his final spar in Tenerife was with Jerry Metcalf, who won the Commonwealth last night, and he damaged his hand sparring with JJ. So unfortunately, he had to pull out of the Brian Rose fight. So I'm presuming now straight into the British title fight with Cheeseman in September. Yeah, that's what we're looking at.
Lovely stuff. At Steve Wood VIP over on Twitter, everybody. Thanks as always, Steve. Enjoy the sun. We'll speak to you soon, no doubt.
Thanks for the call, and get a pair of glasses if you think Kid Galahad won that fight.
No problem. Cheers.
See you later.
Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Yeah, I had Galahad winning the fight, to be honest with you. But you know what? I've had people saying to me all day, how did you see that? How did you come to that conclusion? And I'll be honest, I really don't know. I can't back it up at all. I had Galahad winning, but I can't really mention anything good that he did. But on the flip side of it, I can't really see too much that Warrington did either. I thought he was missing a lot, and I don't know. Maybe I should stop watching this game. Maybe Steve Wood's right, and I maybe need a thicker pair of NHS glasses. Ozzy, let's split back over to Tyson Fury, shall we? We'll talk about Warrington Galahad soon, no doubt. Smido's on the call. Welcome to you, Smido. Tell me about Fury then. Ozzy, I had a great question for you, but I can't find it now, so I'm just going to throw it to one side and just give me your thoughts.
He did exactly what he had to do, really. We all know the opponent wasn't up to spec and what we want him to see him in with, but it was clearly put there as a breakout fight in America. And regardless of what you think, he did the job. And I think the reaction from the casual market has been tremendous. The reflexes he showed, like dodging the punches. I've seen, like loads of GIFs and short videos all over, people loving it. And then the way he just blasted him out of there in a couple of rounds, he beat Tom Schwartz up. And look, I know he's levels above. However, it's good to see Fury active. It's probably the most active he's been in a hell of a long time. And the fact that they've got a couple of dates penciled in, I think it was either middle of September or first week of October, is only a positive. I think they're talking about Kubrat Pulev next, which are more than an acceptable fight, that. And then you're going into Deontay Wilder in early 2020. So, yeah, Tyson Fury did exactly what we wanted him to do. It would have been easy, to potentially get rounds under his belt and box him and bore people, but nobody wants to see that. All in all, a pretty steady, solid performance. Frank Warren described it as punch perfect. Can't really disagree with that. But we want to see more now, and if it is Pulev next, fully behind that, and I expect Fury to deal with Pulev in that fight as well.
Dave the Hater back. I'm always interested to hear what you're thinking. I liked what Ozzy said there about the GIFs and the clips. It's all about that these days, isn't it? Whenever Wilder knocked out Brazil in a round, it's all about the highlight reel clips, whether you're knocking somebody out, whether you're dancing around, whether you're throwing someone over the side of the ring, whether you're elbowing him in the jaw. We'll come to that later. You need to create these highlight reel GIFs like you do, Dave, with your impressions. I like to put you up on Twitter the following week just to show people what they're missing if they're not listening to us on a Sunday evening. What do you think about Fury's performance then, Dave? Were you happy with the way he was dodging and weaving? Was it the finest display of boxing in boxing history?
I'm actually shocked at how well the whole plan worked. I mean, you pick a shitty opponent, stick your guy in there to look good. Usually this stuff never goes over as well with the fans as the promoter would hope it would. This went even better, I think. You had Fury doing the Coming to America. You had countless celebrities there. I don't remember how many there were. Not just British ones like Gordon Ramsay, but you had a bunch of Yank celebrities there. You had the crowd going nuts, American and British. He's singing in the ring afterwards. And of course, aside from all the out of the ring magnetism, which drives in the fans, he put in basically the stellar performance, and stylish too, dodging, confident, showboating, and takes him out in 2 rounds. It's as good as I've seen Tyson look since Vlad, but the opponent was not much to write home about. It's nice to see at least that he can be that he can get up for the lesser fights. As he said, that was one of his weaknesses. But yeah, he was in shape, showed some power. I don't think it really means too much in terms of boxing, other than that at least he can be consistent between fights for a change. We haven't seen that in a while. I guess I kind of enjoyed it. But it also makes me a little wary, just the whole, it's something a little bit manufactured about the whole persona. I know Tyson's like a crazy man, but he was playing hard to the American crowd. God bless America, all this stuff. I don't know if all of it's genuine, but it's certainly effective. I mean, the crowd was going crazy. He was trending #1 on Twitter. That's what you want. You win these days. And yeah, the gif of him, the gif or the clip or whatever you want of him dodging those punches. I don't think he got touched by Tom Schwartz. Barely even remembered his name there. But that's great stuff. I mean, that you can put that next to clips of Ali doing something similar against a lesser opposition. And Ali, like, people always big up Ali and say like, oh, he was the greatest. And if you have any doubts, watch this fight of his against was it Cleveland Williams, right?
Cleveland, Ohio.
Something. Who was the big tall guy that he like danced against and just beat the shit out of him? I think it was Cleveland Williams. Everyone always.
Ernie Terrell.
Well, no, yeah.
Arnie Terrell or Cleveland Williams. Either or.
He didn't stop Terrell. He stopped Cleveland Williams.
Yeah, but Terrell was the one that he promised to carry the rounds and absolutely beat the shit out of him. Was it not?
Yeah, that
wasn't that What's My Name against Terrell, wasn't it?
Yeah, he said because he refused to call him Muhammad Ali.
He did the What's My Name against Floyd though, to Floyd Patterson.
Aye, because I'm sure other fighters were calling him Clay and that as well. Because there was a few, even Frazier refused.
Frazier did too. He didn't really get away with it against Frazier, but yeah. Anyway, I often see the Cleveland Williams performance cited as like one of Ali's best. And let's be real, Cleveland Williams was not a great fighter. He was past his best, and he'd been shot, I think, the year before, had a bullet still inside of him. I mean, it was not a very meaningful win, but people point to this as one of Ali's defining moments. So, you don't have to necessarily have a meaningful win to be recognized as achieving something impressive in at least boxing culture and popular culture, even if it's not, meaning much to the purists like us. So yeah, it doesn't mean much for a win, but as far as branding him, last night was a magnificent success. It was exactly the kind of performance that AJ needed a couple of weeks ago against Andy Ruiz. And unfortunately for him, he got exactly the opposite. But that's exactly what Hearn and them were hoping to do, have this fantastic introduction on American shores. And AJ not only is lacking in the personality and, playing to the crowd ability and singing and all that ridiculous stuff that Tyson does, but he apparently is lacking in the boxing front as well. So Tyson seems to have it all right now, and it's looking very good for him. But I want to see that Wilder rematch. That's the one we got to see. And after Andy Ruiz, I think, probably beats AJ again, he's in the mix too. I want to see him against either of them.
Dave, you mentioned there all the celebrities early on hanging around with Tyson Fury. I didn't see Gordon Ramsay, but they were saying that he was there. Say if you were a high-level fighter, Dave, who would you have hanging around in your changing room before the fight?
Well, it wouldn't be Drake. Give me Arnold. I like Arnold. I'm a big fan of the 80s movies. Plus, that was cool when he took that kick the other week. He's like 70-something years old. Some asshole just jump kicks him in the back. He doesn't even budge. Give me Arnold.
I thought you meant Arnold from Different Strokes.
I had never seen that show.
What do you mean, Hey Arnold?
I was trying to remember his name last night. What was his name again?
Gary Coleman.
Gary Coleman. Gary Coleman was that wee guy's name.
What you talking about, Willis?
Yeah.
He's dead. Unfortunately. This is a little anecdote, but in the film world, we have these things called C-stands where you put diffusion or lighting gaffing equipment on, and the short
geek.
ones. The short ones, they call them Gary Colemans.
Is that it, Dave? Is that all you've got for us tonight?
What do you expect more? I've been talking for like 10 minutes. Oh, here's something. Happy Father's Day to Steve Wellings, Andrew Patterson. Rob, you have a kid, right? Ben,
Correct.
Ozzy doesn't have a kid yet.
Smith.
Kurt.
Smido.
Smido.
Yeah, buddy.
Tommy probably has kids floating around multiple
Ben.
countries. All right.
Thanks, Dave. Do you want to add anything, Andy, before bringing Gabe in there? Or were you just laughing at Dave?
I was just laughing, mate. Sorry. It was actually you I was laughing at, actually, because you came in there pretty strong, you know.
I know I'm not messing about tonight, Andy. I'm like Fury against Schwartz. I'm going to finish you all off quickly.
I heard it before we started live, mate.
Promises, Wellings.
You just wait your turn. I'm coming to you. Soon.
Only Judy can finish me off quickly.
She's too skinny now, by the way. Needs to get that beef back on.
Yeah, we need to get Judy back on the pod, actually. But that's for another night.
Aye, before she ends up in ICU.
She can lift the phone up. She can lift the phone up.
She doesn't answer to me anymore. Right, anyway, Gabe, let's get on to you, shall we? We mentioned there the future fight, obviously, with Deontay Wilder. Tyson Fury's power, it's constantly in question, isn't it? His skill is boxing and moving, but does the fact that Fury isn't a big puncher, even though he got rid of Schwartz last night, does it matter? Because I thought Deontay Wilder made a good point, Gabe. He said, Tyson Fury has to be perfect against me for 12 rounds, whereas I only have to be perfect for 2 seconds. I thought that was good from Wilder. It showed the disparity in power, Gabe, when they eventually meet.
Well, I mean, I guess that's somewhat accurate. Whenever you have watched a lot of Tyson Fury's fights, it's just he doesn't really pack a whole lot of power. But I do think that he's got enough to wobble people. He's got enough to put a little sting, and if he's not too worried about being fast and he sits down on his punches a little bit, I think he can sting a little bit more. I mean, I think that's always the intrigue of the fight between those two. I think that was it whenever the first fight was announced, was that you have a guy who's a boxer. I mean, he's make no mistakes about it. He's a boxer. He's not a boxer puncher. He's not any other style besides a boxer. I mean, he's crafty, good movement, good hand speed, all those things, enough power to trouble you, of course. But, I think that's the most intriguing part of the whole fight was in the first fight was how long would it take before Wilder landed that big right hand. But he's so one-dimensional at it that it doesn't surprise me in a lot of ways that Fury was able to avoid it for as long as he did. I don't know that it will happen again in the second fight because, again, you still have that same dynamic in there. So Fury's going to need to, in the second fight, come with a different game plan than what he did with the first fight, I think, because Wilder, let's face it, he's technically not sound, and I wouldn't put it so far to say that he's maybe not a great game planner either with his team. Because if he hasn't been able to learn some of the fundamental skills and really employ them to this point, then what skills are you really going to teach him to use in a rematch? So I think if Fury is smart and selectively chooses different styles to fight, that he could, do the same thing again. Just based on his quickness, his movement, his ability to box like he did the first fight. I think it'll look different, though. I think there may be a little bit more inside fighting and a little bit a little bit more maybe of a push by Fury to sting and get him open with his shots. So I'm still intrigued by that fight. I really enjoy the prospect of a really good boxer and a really powerful puncher going to war and seeing who comes out on top. I mean, I don't care what anyone says. It's still got to be a toss up to me in the second fight of if Wilder can land that big right hand.
Yes, Mido, I'm wondering about this rematch. I'm thinking to myself, can Fury box differently? Does he need to box differently? I'm thinking Wilder has to. I think he'll know now what's coming from Fury. He might have been a bit confused. There might have been the Vladimir Klitschko element in the first fight, and Wilder will be more prepared. I think he'll box a little bit more in the rematch. He'll set up the big shots, and I'm going for it, Smido. I am the king of the L predictions, so get on Fury. I'm going for Wilder by KO in the rematch.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Wilder's the man that's got to change in terms of that rematch rather than Fury. I think Fury was, 95% there towards a win, could you say? 2 lapses in concentration? I don't know. Or maybe 1 lapse in concentration and 1 genuine knockdown. I don't know. But I think Wilder's the one that's got to change. Just picking up on a couple of bits the guys have said. Ozzy said it's nice to see Tyson Fury active. It is, but the definition of active seems to have changed vastly in the last few years, particularly when it comes to big fighters and particularly Tyson Fury. We know he's had a long way out on his drugs ban or whatever after Vladimir, but he's on after last night against an absolute plonker of a boxer. He's on target to fight twice this year. It's more active than we've seen from Tyson Fury recently, but it's not. Bum of the month active, is it? With what's his face? Who was that heavyweight I've just referred to?
Joe Louis.
That's the one. Yeah, that not very well known boxer Joe Louis. Anyway, we would digress. But I thought last night. I mean, this fellow who was in with last night. I mean, he's not any better or worse than Pianetta and Seferi, is he? Really? Is it really? Is Tom Schwartz any better than them 2 puddings he fought last year?
No, if you'd have put them all together beforehand, I would have said Pianetta was probably the best, then Schwartz, and then the other fella. But I mean, there's not much between them, Smido, in a good way. Yeah,
I mean, but I 100% agree with what Dave said. I can't believe how well last night's gone for them all. Fury, Frank, HBO, or whatever channel he's with, it's gone superbly. Tyson's gone in. He's about the 3rd main story on Daily Mail. I've just been on there. There's gifs going about of him left, right, and centre. There's HBO were going nuts. He's singing in the ring afterwards. I mean, people are forgetting that he's fighting a tomato can. We've got Piers Morgan saying that he's got shades of Ali or whatever. I mean, it's absolutely mad, this world that we live in. Tom Schwartz, man, he's the 7th best heavyweight in Germany or wherever he's fucking from. He's shocking. He's shocking. Tom Schwartz, I'd not even heard of him when this fight was announced. I admitted that a few months ago when the fight was announced. This is how bad it is. It's just come off very nearly beating Deontay Wilder and getting a draw. I mean, even if you'd have said it a year ago today that Fury's going to get a hard-fought but fair draw against Wilder, you'd have took that as a Fury fan. I mean, to say where he's come from. So that was a fantastic performance against Wilder, even without winning. He's at the forefront of all conversations. Is he the best? Is he not the best? Joshua was flying at the time, and they've managed to go in against this Tom Schwartz, and I thought, they've messed up. They've given away the momentum. They're fighting someone nobody's heard of. But as Dave said, going on today's coverage and hyperbole and reaction, why not continue fighting tomato cans? It's a mad world we live in. But I mean, yeah, he had to. I think that it's probably last night was, 3 or 4 rounds would have been pushing it. So to have got rid of him in 2, fair enough. I think the stoppage, he didn't land very much clean. I know he landed a good shot to put him down, but when he got up, the actual stoppage in the corner. I know Schwartz wasn't throwing back. I'm not arguing with the stoppage per se, but I'm just saying Fury wasn't landing a hell of a lot. He is obviously more of a boxer than a puncher, and always will be. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to know how much he's got paid for last night. Because if he can get paid, half of what he got against Deontay Wilder, then where is the incentive for him to stop fighting idiots? Same with Wilder. If he can get half the money that he could have got against Joshua, for example, to fight Brazil, where's the incentive for him to stop doing that? So they're just going to continue down 3 separate paths. and not fighting each other, all blame each other, we all moan, and the merry-go-round continues.
I saw something that he was paid $1 million, but was guaranteed 12.
Wow.
So I don't know how true that is, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I've seen that $12.5 million. I guarantee.
For last night?
Yep.
Yeah, $1 million was when they released those purses, but he was guaranteed 12.
That's what Ricky Hatton got paid to fight Pacquiao.
I mean, this is what I mean. Why would you? Why would you deviate from the road that he got on last night? Why deviate from that?
Well, Smido, we're going to deviate right now because I have a guest on the call. We'll return to you boys shortly, talking about Tyson Fury. Before we do so, delighted to have Darren Tetley with us. How are you, Darren?
I'm not bad, mate. Here.
I'm very well, thanks. We're talking about Tyson Fury at the moment. Did you get a chance to see it at all?
I've never seen the full fight. I've seen highlights and, the end.
Okay, just moving on to the lead show then. Obviously, Josh Warrington got a win over Kid Galahad last night. Just before we discuss your situation, what did you make of the fight itself about Warrington-Galahad? How did you see it?
I mean, it wasn't pretty on the eye, was it? And obviously Warrington and Galahad are probably the first to admit that. I can see why a lot of casuals think Galahad won. And that's no disrespect to casual fans either. They're making him miss more than what just, normally Josh is a lot more accurate than he was. But I think, it's all right making him miss, but you have to land some shots back as well. You can't just win a world title in a world champion's backyard with pot shot in my eyes. The saying is in boxing, if you want to win a title off a champion, you got to rip it off them. And I don't really think he did that. Did a lot of good things, but the holding excessively was just a nightmare to watch.
You made an interesting point there about that phrase. Are you a believer in that then? Do you think then that there is an extra edge and incentive given to the champion, or should there be scoring based on the 12-round system?
I mean, I think they should just score it as they see the fight. At the end of the day, you're watching the fight and that's it. But I mean, even if that was the case, Galahad, was doing good stuff, making him miss, but he was not putting shots together at all to make it look like he was winning. Josh was forcing everything, and for me, Galahad just didn't let his shots. I mean, if Galahad let his shots go more, then I think the result possibly could have been a lot different. But I think, Warrington was trying to force it, let his hands go when he could. And I think the excessive holding really played a downfall for Galahad as well.
Just moving on to yourself then, Darren, obviously being a big ticket seller in that type of area, the fact there were other local guys on the show as well. Is this a show you would have expected to have been on yourself?
This is a show I was already contacted to be on, which is the frustrating part. For one, I signed a contract and was promised to be on every Josh Warrington show. That's the reason, they offered us a contract in the first place. We was offered 4 fights a year on Warrington shows, and obviously that never happened. Then this show came up, it was rescheduled, wasn't it? So when it was first scheduled, I had a fight made against Diego Rivera, who beat Bradley Skeet. I don't know if you remember, I think he stopped Skeet in 2 rounds for the WBO international title, and he's highly ranked for the WBO. I think he was 7 or 9 at one point. I'm not sure if he is now or whatever, but at the time, so we accepted that. A purse was agreed, the title was agreed. I think we was told it was the co-main event for that. Then the show was rescheduled, and they were saying to us, look, the fight's still on, it's just at a later date, is that okay? And we was like, yeah, that's fine. So we started training for it. My training manager says to me, look, Daz, get your ticket orders in. Obviously we think this show's going to sell, so we'll get your ticket orders in. And I think when I boxed Cartwright, I done about 25.5 grand worth of tickets. So when we put our ticket order in, the ticket guy basically said, oh, you're not even on the show. I don't even have you down as been on the show. We still to this day haven't had, an explanation or, anything like that. So it was definitely watching last night, especially when the first live fight was only a 6 rounder, against someone with not a winning record.
Yeah, so you've obviously been with Frank Warren. You signed with him since the BT deal started. You mentioned that fight with Mason Cartwright, which was a memorable fight that you won, a fight that you took as well with extenuating personal circumstances. You won a WBO fringe title as well, but it hasn't really kicked on at all, and there's been no reasons given why this is.
That's the thing, and this is what I put on Twitter. Should have been on this show. I can't remember word for word. Should have been on this show. But instead, I'm watching a 6 rounder. That was no disrespect to Thompson either. That was just in general as a boxing fan. If let's say you're a boxing fan, you get to choose now. Forget that it's me on the phone. If you had a choice, you can watch Shaquille Thompson versus Burt Warren, who's a tough guy by your mind, but in a 6 rounder, you can watch someone. Myself, who was in his last TV fight, was a Fight of the Year contender. Everyone was talking about it against someone that was coming off a knockout win against the former British champion who no one could touch him. For me, it's common sense who I think people would want to watch. But the Cartwright fight, I like to say I thought it was going to put me right up there and get me some big fights, and for one reason or another, it really didn't. And obviously that's frustrating for myself.
So, I mean, what do we think is next? Then there's obviously a local Bradford card coming up soon. You fought on those in the past. You shift tickets for those as well. Are you going to continue with Frank? I mean, do we know any more information?
I was going to be on the Bradford show in July, but I pulled off. I just don't think it's for me. I think the fans who buy tickets off me, I do have quite a lot of fans who I don't necessarily know. They're just like boxing sort of thing, and the fans of mine, and I don't think it's really fair charging them to come and watch with the a journeyman up, so to speak. And so we're hoping for a big fight September, October. The Frank Warren situation, I can't say much, but that we're looking to get that resolved in the next month or so at least, and then obviously everyone will have the answers of what's going on. But I think people can probably use their own imagination of what's going to happen.
And so I suppose whenever there's any news about upcoming fights or what's going on, you'll alert everybody, say on your Twitter at Daz Tetley Boxing, something like that?
Yeah. Once I get a fight, it goes straight on there. The only reason I didn't put the Ramirez fight on there when it was announced, because like with a Cartwright fight, Frank Warren announces it first, and you can't sort of beat to it. So we were sort of waiting, and I was asking, when's it getting announced, and then obviously we know why. But yeah, if it's time for me to announce it, I'll put it straight on social media and get it announced.
Well, hopefully they'll come up with something for you soon. In the meantime, good luck, Darren, and thanks as always for joining us, and keep us informed. Keep in touch with us if anything comes up.
Yeah, will do, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers, Darren. All the best now.
Catch you later, mate.
Bye. Bye-bye. Darren Tetley there, everybody, at Daz Tetley Boxing. It's a shame he's 18-0 with 8 knockouts. He did look, for all intents and purposes, that whenever he defeated Mason Cartwright in that excellent fight, that he was going to be going places, but for some reason they haven't been pushing him on. It is strange with him coming from Bradford, shifting, 25 grand's worth of tickets, he said, for one of the shows. I mean, that's, it's big business, isn't it? Big money, shifting the tickets for any level of show, and they didn't have him on in Leeds. It's a bit of a strange situation, and doesn't seem to be any explanations. I know the line was dipping in and out a little bit there, but hopefully you managed to hear everything that you needed to, everybody. We're on episode 327 of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. We've heard from Andy, Dave, Smido, Gabe, and Ozzy. Rapping Rob Kelly's with us as well. Before we go on to Warrington Galahad then, Rob, let's hear your views on the big lad, Tyson Fury. I heard, Rob, that on a Friday night, down in Waterford, Wexford, wherever you're from, I know, yeah, you can be ducking and diving outside Maggie Mays there, dodging the punches with the hood up.
Yeah, it's Maggie Mays. They don't normally miss it, Maggie Mays, you know what I mean? They're good at closing the distance.
I have a fucking bottle.
Actually, my cousin's the barman at Maggie Mays, so I'm all right.
What about Fury then? Does he do a bit better than you, Rob?
Nobody's want to fight me, you Wexford man. You're joking me. The master of disaster, the king of sting.
Coming at you like Cleopatra.
This is it. No, I thought it was brilliant last night for Fury. Listen, I don't like a lot of the bullshit in boxing, but I do think Fury's the number one guy, and I've been saying it for ages. But like, I know people are criticizing the opponent, and I was in that club too. But when you think about it, the guy was out of the ring for 3 years and was 10 stone overweight. He lost 140 pounds between his comeback fight and when he got Wilder. And to me, when he fights Wilder, he's at about maybe 60, 70% of what he could be. He's still carrying a good bit of weight. But this is the first time we've actually seen him in shape. So I kind of don't begrudge him some fights back or some easy touches while he comes right again. I think last night is the first time we've seen him in shape since Vladimir, and even probably in better shape. I kind of mentioned that last week than he was there. So the footwork was all there, the movement was there, the speed was there, the hands. So he's back to where he was. He's back to where he was, and to be back to where he was after 3 years out of the ring, it's remarkable. Now I know his mental health journey has been oversold to us at this stage, and credit to him for that. But just physically as an athlete, you rarely see boxers take a year out and come back the same. 2 years maximum. Nearly 3 years, 2.5 years out of the ring, 10 stone overweight. To come back and be doing that in the ring is spectacular. So just like his profile after the Wilder fight, the viral knockout clip and all, we all spoke about it at length. I mean, I think people are losing sight of the fact he was actually robbed in the Wilder fight. Like, we know it's a draw, and we know he didn't beat Deontay officially, and he hasn't got the green belt, but he won the fucking fight. Like, you know what I mean? 10 rounds to 2, 9 rounds to 3 maximum. He won the fight, and if it wasn't for those knockdowns, people wouldn't even be talking about Wilder again. So I think that was Wilder's best chance of beating Fury. When we get this rematch in 2020, he has another fight in between. I think he can clown Wilder and maybe even stop him. And I saw Vinny Paz made a good point about Wilder earlier, actually, in that he may be one of the hardest punchers of all time in the heavyweight division, but just the punch doesn't always make you into a great fighter. Other than that, Ernie Shavers and Julian Jackson will be going down as, some of the greatest fighters that we've ever seen. So I think there's flaws there that have always been there with Wilder that he exposed somewhat in the first fight. And I think he could do it again in the second fight.
He's always found a way, though, hasn't he, Wilder, Rob? He's always found a way.
He's always found a way to touch it so far. But I think, like I said, I think that version of Fury late in the fight, feet are maybe a little bit cement at that stage. I don't think that's going to be the case when they meet again. Having said that, he's always, do you know what I mean? That's what makes that fight so intriguing, because he's always in the fight and he's right in what he says. He only has to be lucky once.
Yeah,
or twice, as it was the last case against Fury, but he wasn't lucky enough, you know what I mean? And that's him not at his best. So I don't know. We'll see how he gets on. I fully expect him to rally Ortiz, but there could be some rocky moments there for him again. The longer they delay these fights, the more potential there is for banana skins, as we've seen already with Ruiz and Joshua. So good to see Fury being received. I think we're kind of right seeing him in terms of the public and the casual media. We're finally seeing him in the space that he should have been after he beat Vladimir. Because to me, the way the kind of media treated him and all that afterwards, there was a witch hunt on for him. And I know he had his own problems out of the ring. He didn't help himself. But they basically snubbed him for doing the impossible and put all their eggs in the Joshua basket. And I think now the casual, he's the people's champ when he came back or whatever. I think we're seeing him in his rightful place as the number one guy in the heavyweight division. Now, whether he can fulfill that or not is another story. We'll have to see. But I think he's shown how good he can be, even against a lower tier guy.
Shout out to everybody in the chat. Jason Chukwu's there right from the beginning tonight. Must be a big one when Chukwu's on there. Snake Hips, Max Stoke, all the boys are hanging around there as well. Before we go on to Warrington Galahad, let's have a look at the undercard very, very briefly. Isaac Lowe did a bit of pushing and shoving at the weigh-in against Mr. Duan Vu. It was a bit unnecessary. Even Bob got stuck in on that one. Andy Venn says, I expect him to beat Albert Bell. Bell could be one to watch. 97-93 across the board. He won the WBC Continental Americas Super Featherweight title. What a time to be alive when those titles are floating about. Also, Jesse Hart against Sullivan Barrera. this was actually a really fun fight. I enjoyed it. We said beforehand it probably would be. It was a bit of a fell fest of fun. They were both swinging for the hills, but Barrera's old chin issues came back to haunt him. He clinched a little bit too much as well. Respect to Jesse Hart, who's probably too high in weight. I'd like to see him move back down again. Might ring him up and tell him that, actually. Anybody want to say anything about the undercard? You got about 30 seconds each. If you do, unmute yourselves now.
Best thing about it for me was the commentary. I really like Andre Ward and Tim Bradley. Not so much Joe Tessitore these days. I used to like him back when he did Friday night fights, and he played it more straight. These days, I get the amount of money involved, Bob Arum involved. I think they do it a little bit more like Matchroom. Honestly, it's about the hype. It's about selling it. But luckily, they still got Andre Ward and Tim Bradley there, because they were just like trashing Jesse Hart last night for like really dumb decisions he would make and like losing focus and stuff. I enjoyed that. It's nice to hear both those guys, because I was such a fan of them as fighters. I wish Andre Ward was still fighting, honestly, but it's good to hear them, like, they call it straight, like Merchant used to do on HBO. They're not interested in pushing any narratives like some of the other guys were on the commentary team.
Andy, anything from you to add there?
No, but I was just going to ask, actually, because I've no fully caught up in the weekend's events and stuff, but is that any worth a fight worth of watching? Hart, Barrera?
Yeah, I'd say it is. If you've got an opportunity, I would give it a watch. It's quite fun.
No worries. See, Big Bremer got a knockout win in Germany last night.
Well, actually, I didn't see that, but I did notice that. That was on the same card as Tyrone Zoigo. I was going to mention that he knocked out Adan Silveira to retain the European title, and there I see that there. Jürgen Bremer. How long is he going to go on for, Andy? Isn't it about time old Jürgen thought about hanging up the gloves?
Well, I'll just divert a wee bit here. I don't know if you caught my message earlier on there, but you see, Jorge Barrios was fighting in Argentina last night.
I can't believe
Had
that.
a 10-round points win against a guy with honestly, it was a shocking record the guy was fighting me, but Bremer's going to be one of the guys, I suppose, just going to kind of keep going in that, if he can get a payday, mate. It was only an 8-rounder he fought last night.
Thing is, though, Andy, it's the great time for these European sort of middleweight eras. Next week, Friday the 21st of June, over in Italy, let's party like it's 2005. Giovanni Di Carolis is fighting against Koren Gavor. They've both got 9 losses on the record, Andy. Who's going to be into double figures come the end of Friday night?
Is that the Gavor that got iced off Abraham?
About 12 years ago.
Oh, Jesus,
still
man.
going.
Battle of the Washed.
I thought he was beating Abraham, when Abraham knocked him out.
It was. Abraham was kind of struggling at that point at middleweight. He was always tight of the weight. And he badly needed his power at that point. But I've got a copy of the Zoigo fight. It's on YouTube. It's on the MDR official YouTube channel. So fights, copies can get seen there, HD as well.
There you go. Let's move on. I mentioned last week that Jose Antonio Rivera was returning after about 8 years out at the age of 46. He won a split decision over 8 rounds on Friday night in Massachusetts against Travis Scott. So we'll tick that off. The Rivera comeback is very much in full flow. Over in Australia, there were wins apiece for the Maloney brothers. Andrew Maloney and Jason both knocked out their respective opponents in the second round. So they're going places. These are just ticking over fights for those two. They will move up to world level at some point and be involved in exciting encounters, I would think. Let's move on then, Aussie, to Leeds. Darren Tetley said it true. Casuals had Galahad winning, so I'm very, very much in the casual camp. I did say to you last week, though, I didn't expect Galahad to win. I expected Warrington to win on points, but that Galahad might have enough grit, determination, enough nous to win a few rounds and give Josh trouble, regardless of the outcome, Aussie. I don't know how you scored it, who you saw winning. I thought Galahad did do that. He did frustrate Warrington and win a few rounds.
Yeah, it was a poor fight. I don't think it was great to watch. I had Warrington by a point. I can understand the draw. I can understand a round to Galahad. What I can't understand is 3 rounds to Josh Warrington. Didn't think it was that close at all. It was one of them. I thought Galahad boxed the fight that he had to look to get a win over Warrington. I thought if he stood there and traded, he would have lost. But at the same time, his persistent holding was frustrating. And I don't think... it was a clever tactic, but the referee allowed him to get away with it. It made for difficult viewing. And he seemed like he'd land a shot on Warrington and he'd be straight into smother the work or something like that. in some ways afraid that perhaps that he was afraid to get hit. If you know what I mean, like every time he'd be smothering the work, he'd be pulling Warrington's head down. But at the same time, he did cause Warrington problems, particularly when he switched stance as well. And Warrington definitely didn't have it all his own way, and it was a style that definitely caused problems for him. However, I thought it was towards the back end of the fight, and it was the last round that I felt was the decider. And I had Josh winning by a point, but I mean, people are calling saying that there should be a rematch. I personally can't see that.
Oh God, no chance.
I definitely wouldn't describe it as a robbery either. I've seen a hell of a lot worse robbery. I would say that Delphine Bassoon, Katie Taylor fight was more of a robbery than this was. That took place last night in Leeds. But no, overall, I felt Galahad showed that he definitely belongs at that level. However, it's going to be difficult for him to come back now. I mean, he doesn't sell a ticket. His profile isn't there. I mean, he's with Matchroom, but are they really going to back him? And he's got the style of basically who wants to fight him. He doesn't, like I said, he doesn't generate, the funds, that can make a big money fight. And like Steve Wood said, he probably got a career high. Well, he did get a career high payday last night, and it probably trounced all of his paydays in his previous fights all into one. For Josh Warrington, I think going forward, all he wants now is the big fights. He's done all he can in the UK, and quite right. I think this guy deserves a fight against Oscar Valdez, Gary Russell, or Leo Santa Cruz. Whether these fights happen next, I'm not too sure.
What do we think then, Andy? I didn't think the holding became too bad and towards the end of the fight. It was maybe I was rating Galahad higher because Warrington wasn't doing the things that I thought he would. He's usually got pretty quick feet. He can close down the distance quite quickly, and he wasn't really doing that. And he pulled this move. I mentioned it in the chat last night, Andy, like a pseudo southpaw move. He sort of came forward, wasn't really southpaw, squared himself up, allowed Galahad to get the shots off. But a lot of Warrington's work was being smothered, but it was also flying over Galahad's head. It wasn't a good look for Warrington, I didn't think.
Yeah, it was. He kind of looked like he was desperate in the end, through the course of the fight and stuff. It was just horrible to watch. And see, to be honest, I didn't really want to spend a lot of time on it, mate. It was just one of them fights. I give up. It seemed I've got to give up scoring a fight and stuff like. You then know that I'm not really holding that much interest and stuff. I look at it on the whole. Galahad, as Ozzy said, did what he had to do. I suppose. He's not got the pop really. He has got that. He's a single fight. He's going to have that difficult style he's got and stuff. So they're always awkward, the angle fighters and stuff. And that's the kind of thing that Warrington's actually had the problems with. But if I'm looking at it on the whole, I think maybe Galahad just shaded it. But it was just an awful fight, and Warrington got the nod. I'm not really kind of bothered about it. I mean, I don't like Galahad. I'm not going to go on in him at the minute, but Warrington, I've got a lot of respect for because to go through and beat Selby, Frampton, and Galahad, so that's basically kind of cleaned up domestically. And as Ozzy says, he deserves a big fight. So if he get a unification fight, it'll be fantastic for the guy. I don't know if he's struggling with the weight or anything like that. So if he is at this point or whatever, and that he looks like he's kind of like quite thick for the weight. So if it is going to be an issue, then hopefully he gets the unification fights next. So I would hate him to be kind of struggling at the weight for like a big fight, especially if he's got to go abroad and that, and he's got to try and get the water off. But yeah, he's probably deserved it. He definitely deserved it in my opinion. That he's been at European level, he's cleaned up domestically. So yeah, the only thing he can really do now is just basically get the big opportunities for the other belts.
Yeah, MB says in the chat they weren't there to entertain, they just wanted the belt. And Snake Hips made a good point, Smido. He said the Ingle style is boring, taking out Nazim. A lot of people were making comparisons, I suppose, between Galahad and Nazim, and Ron told us the story about Nazim was his idol and all that, but I felt that he was a bit more Junior Witter than Nazim. Witter he could be explosive, but he could also stink the joint out, and this was Galahad embodying Witter on maybe one of his more negative nights. I
ended up turning off Steve, to be honest. I thought, obviously I'm the big casual, and I just thought this is shite, so I turned off. Too much holding, hugging, Every time Galahad threw or landed a single punch, it would just hold. Warrington, from what I saw, Warrington was too happy or comfortable at letting it be at mid to long range, and he wants it to be inside, throwing hooks and a lot of punches and getting in and out and bum rushing you like what he did against Frampton. Really, he didn't get the opportunity to do that with Galahad's holding, but I don't think from the few rounds I saw live, I don't think Warrington tried to do that often enough himself. Maybe the corner thought they were winning, as they did. I can't comment on the scorecards. I mean, it would have been a nightmare for an idiot like me to try and score that fight. Because, like you say, there were some rounds where just nothing was happening. But I do agree with the comments about Warrington that he's cleaned up domestically. I think that's fair to say. We know what he is, Warrington, and I think that in some of the potential unifications, there'll be much better fights to watch than what we got to saw last night. But I can't add much in terms of high class analysis.
I wouldn't doubt yourself, Smido. We're coming back to you later on for the high class analysis. Bit of betting, maybe, Smido. Ever think about some of the betting value we could bring to the table later on? Adam Smido Smith there, everybody. Dave, just before we come to you, Andy, someone in the chat was mentioning about the mighty Kanzu, who's on a bit of a decent run at the moment. He could be thrown into the mix at some point.
I was literally just about to say that then. I bet you they can't get Santa Cruz. Valdez is apparently lined up to fight Frampton, as Steve Wood said. And to be honest, I don't think they want anything to do with Gary Russell. So I bet they end up fighting Kanzu in America.
Josh Warrington.
Yeah.
I'll be honest right now. I was watching his last fight against that Shun Kubo, and I'm telling you right now, just looking at that stylistically, and that him against Santa Cruz would be a fucking fantastic fight. I'm just calling that now. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's just my opinion, but I think it would be a tremendous fight if it was to get made. And I agree with what Ozzy's saying there as well about the WBA situation. You would think they were about to try and, they were talking about unifying the WBA belts and that, but I can see them kind of keeping that fight separate. Him against Warrington would be a fucking war, man. But to be honest, that guy here, Oz, what height officially is Josh Warrington? Because that Kanzu is a fucking monster as a featherweight, by the way.
Does it say 5'7"?
5'7". I'm telling you, man, that's a heavy weather fight. Like that's one I wouldn't be too keen to go for straight away. I know there's another belt. There's another belt on the line there, but I would try and maybe look at another avenue at the minute because that one's.
Kanzu's 5'9".
He's a big lad.
5'9". Yeah. It's going to be interesting. Like you say, you feel like they've got to go to America unless they'll only go to America for a unification. Otherwise, they've got the backing to stay in Leeds and bring these people over. It was sold out last night. What's that, 10,000? Galahad didn't do anything for that. Probably didn't do 10 tickets. So it was solely on Warrington. But they've said that they don't even want, which I applaud. He said, I don't want any of all these, easy defences against absolute no marks because Warrington said himself, they don't do anything for me. But I'll be surprised if they go out to America not to contest, unless it is for, a unification.
Dave, what did you make of it over across the pond with the Electronic Sports Participation Network picking this one up?
No idea. I watched it on BT Sport, and this is the first time I've ever seen a full Kid Galahad fight. I'm certainly not in a hurry to watch another. Now, we know that Warrington can at least have some fun fights, because I thought both his Frampton and Selby performances were quite watchable. I agree with Andy that him versus Luis Santa Cruz Control, Leo Santa Cruz Control would be fantastic to watch. I would love to watch that. So for that alone, I'm kind of glad Warrington got the win. I didn't score it, didn't bother. After the fifth round, I had Galahad, sort of ahead, but I quit. I was like, this is stupid. I took a knee, did an AJ, did a Brook. Said, no, I'm done. It was just too poor. It was beneath my contempt. So I just didn't bother. But I'm kind of glad that with the result, just because I know at least Warrington is more exciting. Let's say roughly they're on each other's level, just so they don't fight each other again. That's fine with me. I don't really care what Galahad does, except it's going to be like as far as I'm concerned, he did prove that he's like quality enough to hang at that level. But it's going to be tough for him now to get more fights at that level because no one cares about him, and no one, especially, is going to want to see that again. He didn't, and it's a shame because he looked like early on he was setting the pace of the fight, and if he'd done more offensively, he could have like put on a real performance there. I think it was a really
I think if he'd have let his hands go, Dave, in the last few rounds, he could have had a bit of success.
Yeah, because he was still making Warrington miss. Like Warrington never. He may have outworked him. Like I didn't score it, but so if you give it to Warrington, it's based on his work rate. But nothing really good was landed by either guy really. But I would say that Galahad landed the sharper stuff and looked like if he wanted to push it, if he had thrown a few combinations instead of just the odd single shot, like he could have had some real eye-catching moments. But nope, it was a load of nothing from both. So I don't care what happens next, really, unless we get the Santa Cruz versus Warrington. That'd be fun to watch. But overall, I'm kind of over the whole division. Honestly, I don't really care too much what happens. A lot of the guys have not been fighting the best. Warrington is probably the guy who's been most consistently fighting decent opposition. I don't even remember who Santa Cruz's last opponent was.
Rafael Rivera.
Oh, well, there's a big name. Wasn't Gary Russell just against Kiko Martinez? So, Warrington is showing, even though he looked like shit last night, he's showing the best form in the division right now. As far as, is there anyone else who's at that division right now?
Well, Kanzu's on good form, isn't he?
I've never seen him. Interesting name, though. If he's... If it's easy to remember, Kanzu. Hopefully he comes up and it ends up being the man in the division, because I'm not interested in either Gary Russell or Leo.
Dave, you're more like casual. You need to get on this Kanzu. Yeah, you need to get on this. You're more like the casual of the featherweight division. You need to get on this Kanzu train.
You were making a pun there.
I know. Funds. Jokes are always better when you have to explain them. That was one of my poor efforts.
Yeah, it was poor. But to be fair, you're also right. I don't give a shit about the division. Move on.
Let's move on, says Dave. Move on to you, Gabe. Dave did make a good point, actually, Gabe, when he said that a Warrington win is better for the featherweight division. I thought that Galahad nicked it, but I don't want to see Galahad going forward, whether he nicked it or not. Nobody else wants to see him. The only way he's going to get a shot at anything is if he puts himself into a position with the IBF or whoever it may be. For the health of the division going forward, Gabe, a Warrington win is better for all of us, isn't it? We can get rid of Galahad now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's pretty accurate. I mean, you really look at the people in the division, and it's kind of like, well, what would have happened if he would have won? I guess. I mean, where's he going to go next? Leo Santa Cruz is not going to fight anybody. Leo Santa Cruz has been a piece of crap forever. Just garbage, a waste of a career. He could have been, in some really good fights. He could have gotten spectacularly knocked out at some point. I'm still hoping that we get to see that happen. But I mean, he's not going to fight anybody. Leo Santa Cruz is just straight up not going to fucking fight anyone. Gary Russell Jr., he's done his time for the year. I mean, he fights so infrequently. The only person that I can see that could possibly happen would maybe be who is Frampton signed with right now?
He's with Bob Arum, Top Rank, and Frank Warren.
See, I don't think that's gonna happen because Galahad's with Matchroom, right?
Yep.
So I don't think Eddie's gonna. I mean, I don't know. I could be wrong because maybe he doesn't sell the tickets, so maybe Eddie would be willing to throw him out to somebody.
Well, I think he would be. He doesn't seem to give a shit now domestically, Eddie, does he? He's throwing them all over the place.
I guess so. It could be. I mean, I don't know. It's just hard to see where he goes and what fights he's going to make that are going to be really any good for anything. With Warrington, I mean, I really feel like you can put him in with Oscar Valdez, and you could put him in with Leo Santa Cruz, and you could have that matchup with him and Carl Frampton. And I don't see anything wrong with any of those fights on paper. I don't think there's anything wrong with those. I think if you look in that division, that's where Magdaleno, not Diego, Jesse Magdaleno, that's where he's fighting at. So I'm sure he's rated somewhere near maybe the top 10 of a couple of those bodies or some world rankings or something. I mean, I just feel like there's some other fights there that could be good, and Warrington would be the guy that you would match it up with. Galahad, he's a drug user. He's boring. He did nothing in the fight last night to really show me anything other than that he's a piece of garbage to watch. I'm kind of like, I think Dave said that this was the first complete fight that he'd sat through a Galahad. I've made it a couple more than him, but not that much. I just don't enjoy watching the guy fight. And then to top it off, the fact that he's a huge dickhead too doesn't make things any better in my opinion. But I mean, like I said, I just don't see what he does to improve the division if he wins. Warrington, though, got a lot of options there. I don't feel like he's the kind of fighter that's going to step up to world level and face the top 3-4 guys in the division, depending on where you rank him at, and come out clean. I just don't think that's going to happen. But I think whenever you put him in there, he's going to put on a good fight and give some good effort, and he can squeak some victories out on a couple of those guys. Oscar Valdez, I'm not real high on Valdez right now. The last couple of fights that we've watched, he just looks off. And I think that's part of his new training. But I think if it were me, if I was Warrington, that's who I'd go for. I'd go for Oscar Valdez and see what I can do. Because I think right now in the midst of the retraining period that he's having with his new trainers, I think that would be a perfect time for him to take Valdez. Matter of fact, I think that if anyone wants Valdez right now, it would be perfect because they'll get him.
Yeah, we think Frampton's going to fight Valdez next. Just before we go to Aussie to wrap up the undercard for us, wrapping Rob Kelly, Warrington Galahad. I like Jamie Moore, actually, whenever he said at the end, I had it 9-3 or maybe 8-4, but I could see a round to Galahad as well.
Yeah. Really incisive stuff there from Jamie. Yeah, just a note on the commentary as well. Just the backdrop you need for fucking WrestleMania grab fest that it was. You get Skellington and Richie Woodhall calling it as the crowd were silenced in Leeds by Galahad's spoiling tactics. Look,
Big Ron was loving it last night, wasn't he?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I think the reason that a lot of people gravitate towards this pod as opposed to the mainstream shit is that we're not biased. So, like, I didn't want Galahad to win. I'm not buying that Stanisball story in a million years. Like, I think he was just cheating and he got caught. But we see more and more of that these days. That's just become almost acceptable. So he's in his position for a world title fight, and I thought he won the fight. And I would say I thought it was a robbery. I picked against him last week. I thought Warrington was going to give him too much trouble. I thought he was going to be too close to him. But when Galahad took the southpaw stance, Warrington stayed on the outside, and it was really perplexing to me. For a while, I thought like he looked like he'd hurt his left hand or something, because when he was having success in round 2, everything was coming off the jab, and he looked stronger. He was pushing him back, caught him a couple of times with his head in the air, like he can do with Engle fighters sometimes. And he looked like he was going to take over with pressure. But after that, to me, I thought everything that Warrington did was ineffective. Like I said, when Galahad stood there, now a lot of the time Galahad didn't do himself any favors because he's taking the southpaw stance and he's just kind of posturing in front of him. But at the same time, Warrington doesn't look like much when he's on the back foot. And I thought Galahad was showing he was stronger than him in the clinch. Obviously, he was holding early in the fight. But those punches over the shoulders, Warrington was missing every time. He seemed to like he couldn't set the shots up. And he was like very, very ineffective throughout the fight. And although it was a horrible fight to score and it was rotten, I'm not saying anything new by saying it was a stinker of a fight. I think the robbery was in last night. I said that kind of going into the last rounds in the chat anyway. I thought, like, I have Galahad ahead here, but I'm expecting Warrington to get a contentious one. And I think if you look at Warrington when the bell rings, he doesn't look like a man that's won the fight to me. I think he believes he lost it. I think that the dad did a good job of geeing him up with 3 rounds to go. However, I don't know about the advice in the corner either. He was saying to him, like, look, he hates when you're on top of him, so you got to get on top of him. But they're not seeing that whatever Galahad was doing was stopping Warrington coming in. He wasn't able to set up to get around the southpaw stance to get in and start wailing on him. And when he was, Galahad was just slipping. So he seemed to abandon the jab a little bit when Galahad was in the southpaw. So he took Warrington's jab away from him. I think he has to get credit for that as well. So I know nobody will give Galahad the credit. Everybody will be glad to see him get beat, but to me, I thought that was a robbery. There's no, especially on the cards. Like, I didn't think you can't give it to Warrington that wide. If you give it to him 1 round, all right, there's an argument. He won 7 rounds in the fight. I don't know if he did. I couldn't see it myself, but you could say maybe based off work rate or whatever. But to give it to him so wide, I thought was a bit of a bad call. But I'm sure, like you said, Steve, nobody's going to care. Galahad's in the Who Wants Him club. His style is very awkward. As Ozzy says, he doesn't sell a ticket. So last night was his moment, and I doubt we'll see him back at the top level. But for me, just on the fight, as I saw it, I thought Galahad won the fight.
Galahad for Rob. What about the undercard then, Ozzy? Zelfa Barrett, we mentioned, outboxed Leon Woodstock Jr. I thought he showed a lot of variations, a lot of different dimensions to his game, Barrett. I was impressed with him, actually. I didn't see Metcalf against Wellborn, but Metcalf got the job done. And also, you called this one last week, Ozzy. You were on upset watch. Kamil Sokolowski did indeed beat Alex Dickinson by a point.
Yeah, I thought the undercard, particularly Barrett and the Metcalf fights, were very good. I think TV-wise, it lacked one more. Like we said, but I've no interest in seeing 6-rounders and things like that as the opening fight on a big TV show. But no, overall, I thought Barrett was excellent against Woodstock. I thought he looked really good. I thought he boxed Woodstock's just to bits at times, and showed what Zelfa Barrett's really about. There was a lot of talk coming out about him in the gyms in Manchester of how good this lad was, and unfortunately, when he had his big test against Ronnie Clark, he came unstuck. But he's bounced back well, and look, he's the Commonwealth champion now. I thought the fight was very good. It was well matched. Bit of a rebuilding stage needed for Leon Woodstock now. I think he's lost, back-to-back fights, so he had one in between in the Archie Sharp defeat as well. So he certainly doesn't need to knock it on the head because he's got a style, and he displayed a great chin last night as well. For Zelfa, the Sam Bowen fight makes complete sense for the British title. Likewise, does the Archie Sharp fight as well. So there's a nice little round robin of fights there where they could all fight each other, and I have no doubt they'd all produce the goods. JJ Metcalf produced a brilliant stoppage of Jason Wellborn. Really impressed. I'd had word before the fight off a few people that Metcalf was nursing a hand injury, and he'd had some basically late treatment on it, even having injections just a couple of days before to try and mask some of the pain. So that's why I was on Wellborn, because I thought, well, if a fighter's got a busted hand, and it was from people who were close to the Metcalf camp as well, Wellborn was more than capable of winning the fight, but Metcalf produced a brilliant stoppage, landed a shot to Wellborn's body, and that was that. Perhaps the low blow maybe played a part in it. He was stopped in the same round and he had a point taken off just before that. But again, a decent win. I mean, he was saying after it can propel him to world level this. I don't buy into that. But again, there's fights to be made at super welterweight, at British title level. That'll surely impress. There's a couple of prospects on there as well. But overall, yeah, shout out to Kamil Sokolowski. Another upset for the Polish heavyweight who lives in Devon. Again, it sounds weird. I don't know why people fight him. It was like, do you remember Sergei Kamitsky? We had this thing about bringing him over. I think Buglioni.
Pete Buglioni, that's right, yeah.
And Adam Etches got absolutely iced off him as well. He was one of them of like, what what do you achieve from beating him? And Sokolowski's the same. He's a hell of a lot better than his record suggests. And it's one of them, like, what? It's not a bad win, but it doesn't do anything for you. You're not going to, it's not going to affect you not fighting Kamil Sokolowski. And again, he's upset the apple cart, and it's another solid win. And it'll be interesting to see where Sokolowski goes next, of what up and coming heavyweight will take him on. But no, that was pleasing, a 2-1 shot that I managed to land, which is never something to turn your nose up at.
Cheers, Ozzy, for going over the undercard there in Leeds. One person who was there ringside shouting Leeds, 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 no doubt, in and amongst the beach balls and the super kestrel. It's the Boxing Asylum's IT department. Ben Faruqi, how are you, Ben?
I'm good, Steve. I'm good.
Excellent. Right, go on then. Tell us from your vantage point what was going on last night. There's been a few people for Warrington, a few people for Galahad. We spoke to Steve Wood as well. What did you say?
And then your own estimates, mate. How many grams were snorted?
I don't know about that. Okay, numbers too high. Numbers too high. Fight. I scored it like Ozzy to Josh by 1 point or 1 round. It was, it was a very close fight. I'm slightly biased probably because I spent a lot of time with Josh being from the Bradford area, Leeds area. So, but I tried not to do that with my scoring. Galahad looked good at the beginning, but one thing I really don't like was the sort of the tactics that they employ, where it's grabbing and holding and smothering, and to me it shouldn't be done. It's not allowed. It's like diving in football to get ahead, or time wasting, and I can't abide by it. I don't think that's the way a man wins a fight. People can say it's a tactic like they do with football, but I just don't like it. But in the end, regardless of that, I still thought that Josh nicked it. I think that the referee really should have put his foot down more with Galahad. I don't know why he didn't. And Josh's team, and I'm sure Steve Wood said it. I didn't hear Steve earlier on when he was on, but I'm sure Steve said it. He said it to us after the fight. Josh's dad said it after the fight. And I think they were quite annoyed that wasn't done. But yeah, it was a very poor fight. It was horrible to watch. And everybody said that. I'm pretty sure Kid Galahad's team said it. Josh's team definitely said it. Every single one of them said it. And they weren't too pleased with Josh's performance either. But they thought that they got the job done. And I think for them, it's, like they said, a potential banana skin out of the way. And they're looking for that unification. I think Leo Santa Cruz is the favourite. But in their eyes, that's who they'd prefer. I know they'd talked to Valdez for a long time. But I think that was because of the WBO thing, and it was probably easier for them to make, given the Frank Warren connection. But I think that they ideally would like Santa Cruz. That's from my time spent with Josh. I think that's what he wants. He wants next.
Steve Wood mentioned Santa Cruz as well. That would be a decent matchup. They both throw a lot of punches. I think it wouldn't be anything like the stylistic matchup that we saw last night. Anyway, it would be more pleasing on the eye, Ben.
It definitely would. It'd be a much more exciting fight. And I think it was Gabe was saying, that look who Santa Cruz has been fighting. Look who Josh has been fighting. If you look at the sort of recent form going into that fight, you'd think Josh has a very good chance of winning that fight. But yeah, I just hope he can do it. It'd be fantastic for him to take all his support over there. That'd be a rowdy time in Las Vegas or California, or wherever it happens. All those nutty Leeds fans and Josh going out there to unify. And that's what he wants to do. I'll tell you one thing about Josh. I spend a lot of time with different fighters, going to different gyms throughout the country, going to all these events, and Josh is unbelievably focused mentally. And the mental work he does in training sessions and outside of training sessions to focus himself and prepare himself for fights is really good. It's unbelievable. Doing all these mental exercises in between, the little training sessions that he does, and to sort of prepare himself for when things don't go your way in fights. So hopefully he can get over there in the next fight.
We were talking to your friend as well, guy you followed for a number of years, Darren Tetley, earlier on. He didn't unfortunately manage to get onto the undercard, but was there anything on the undercard that really stuck out for you? I suppose Barrett against Woodstock was a good one.
Yeah, Barrett against Woodstock was a good fight. I didn't catch all of it because I was running backstage and back to the ringside doing interviews and stuff. But the bits I did catch, it was. I mean, I caught bits of it where there was part where Woodstock was catching Barrett, and Barrett's eye looked swollen. His right eye looked swollen, and it was like it was watering or something. Like he couldn't see out of his right eye properly, and that was going on for a round or two. I saw that, but then there was, other times that I caught the fight and Zelfa seemed to be in control. So I can't really say scorecard wise because I wasn't watching the full 12 rounds. I was doing interviews at the same time, which is a shame because I really wanted to watch that fight. One thing I would say about the JJ Metcalf fight is I heard the rumours that Ozzy heard as well about hand injury, Achilles injury, and I was quite disappointed that he didn't just land one low blow. He landed quite a few or he was trying to, and he was trying to get them as low as he could, and then he finished off Wellborn with a body shot. And to me, he wasn't even throwing that right hand at the beginning a lot. He didn't seem to be throwing it much anyway, from what I caught of him. And I just thought I didn't like that. Again, I thought it was a pretty cheap way to do things, but yeah, and I caught the end of Sokolowski as well. It was always, I was stood next to him for a bit, sort of wanted to take a picture of him. I don't often do that with fighters, but it's like a sort of underground hero, isn't he?
Farm boy.
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
We know that you're busy, Ben. So just before you go, tell me about Tyson Fury. What did you make of his performance? Did you catch up with it?
I just saw the stoppage. I haven't. I mean, there's not much to watch, I guess, but I just watched the stoppage. That's what he needed, in my opinion. He needed that emphatic win to sort of win over the American fans a bit more. He should have won a lot of with the Wilder performance, but winning in that fashion, those quick knockouts, that's what a lot of the casual fans in America will want to see. And it'll help them push him from a marketing perspective. It'll do wonders for them. Whatever they do in September, October, whenever he's going to be out next, it'll really help them push that and hopefully get that rematch with Wilder.
Good stuff, Ben. Good to hear from you as always. Tell us about Twitter then. Obviously, Boxing News TV, thriving, loads of videos up on the YouTube channel. You're away editing, uploading, doing all these lovely things. Where can people find you?
Yeah, it's just Boxing News TV on all the platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and mine is Ben BNTV on Twitter. But yeah, just Boxing News TV. That's where you
Brilliant
can find
stuff.
us.
Always good to hear from you, Ben. Keep it real.
All right, I'll speak to you soon, mate.
Cheerio. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Ben Fuki there, the Boxing Asylum's technical team. He's the main man, puts everything up on iTunes. Let's get on with it then before next week's action, shall we? Right, who saw this one from this afternoon then? I want to get this out of the way. This was quite the entertainment. The old Russian hammer himself, Kudryashov, went in against Makabu. Wasn't really sure what to make of Makabu. A lot of the hipsters were bigging him up before the Tony Bellew fight, saying he was going to knock him out, and then obviously he dropped him in whatever round it was, the second or the third, and we thought, oh, here we go. Here's a decent fighter. Bellew then obviously went on to ice him. Haven't heard a great deal from Makabu since, but I thought he looked quite good early on. Picked his punches well, took a few digs, showed he has a bit of a beard about him. We know what Kudryashov's about. He's a massive puncher, did a bit of counter punching, but he wears himself out. If he hasn't knocked you out by 3, 4, 5 rounds, he's absolutely bollocksed. But he took his licks, he took his digs this afternoon, and his face was just a complete bloody mess. Fair play to Makabu. Anybody want to jump in on this? As I said, picked his punches really well, Andy.
Yeah, it was really kind of fun fight, I suppose. It's just, I tweeted it just before it started, actually, that it was Russian hammer time, so it's guaranteed the fight's not going to go a distance. Either he knocks somebody out or he gets knocked out. He had nothing left after that first round. I know he kind of tried to kind of fight back. I think it was at the 5th round. I think it was. He was trying to kind of make a last stand at it. And he got stopped and that, but yeah, it was a really good fun fight, and that I suppose it's what you really needed on a Sunday, actually kind of blow the cobwebs away and that. But I pulled up Makabu's record just as you're talking there, Steve, and stuff. So after the Bellew fight, right, he's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fights, 2 against Georgians, and a couple of other fights here in Africa and stuff like that. And we're talking about the Perez fight and that kind of following through. He's got this opportunity. He's picked up that silver title at WBCs and stuff like that. You just think he could end up getting that call. He just sits pretty for a wee bit and that, and might get the mandatory call and that again, So fair play to the guy. It was a really good fight and that. Bang up for it. It wasn't. He was taunting. You see him. It was out into the first round that he's getting it for you. Come on, you can't you? So I really like that. So he stepped up, but to be honest, I thought Maccabi was kind of like on the road to bollocks himself as well. It was gassing me, but I thought you could see these punches. There's a lot of winging shots, fucking punches getting missed and stuff like that.
Showed his own vulnerabilities, didn't he?
Yeah,
at times, I think.
Kudrashov's trying to kind of go for the money punch and that, which is as natural as his left hook and that. I mean, was it the guy who was was it Gomez? Remember that knockout with the left hook and that? There was somebody else he iced with the left hook. That's his saviour punch, and he landed it. I think it was the first or second round, I think it was, and Maccabi just swallowed it. But I think, to be honest, I think if it wasn't for the fact is that Kudrashov got dropped early in that fight, it might have went a wee bit longer actually. But same old story with Kudrashov and that. Once he kind of throws his best shots, and that he's got nothing left. He's got no resistance. He's no stamina. He's just that big, scary looking dude who's got power, who can turn a fight possibly. But yeah, it was a really good, interesting, fun fight actually.
Certainly was. Aussie over the weekend. Update on Saturday night from the Philippines. Our friend Saul Farah went over to box against Ronald Johnson. He lost. The scores indicate a couple of trips to the canvas for old Saul as well. We noticed you've got the photograph up of him there. 118, 108, 120, 106 and 116, 110. Shows that Saul was right in it, but he just couldn't quite bring it home.
Well, it stinks of a robbery, in my opinion. He was basically forced to take an opportunity on the road, and it's shown. He wasn't allowed to referee, promote, matchmake this show, and it's no surprise that he's come on the wrong side of the scorecards. Apparently, he was dropped twice in round one as well. Probably nervous, just getting to grips with the over in the Philippines, and who knows what's next now for Big Saul Farah. Will he return to Bolivia and perhaps put on his own show again? Don the referee's top, maybe do a bit of matchmaking as well. Who knows? But in my opinion, he was all about Operation Cruiserweight. He's clearly knocked that on the head, got back on the burgers, and it's bit him on his backside. Ronald Johnson, 15-1. No, sorry, 16-1 now. 4 knockouts. Has he won any fancy?
What was the title, Aussie? Was it a GBO or something?
There was no belt on the line, so
on the poster it mentioned a GBO World Heavyweight title.
Oh, did it? Oh,
yeah.
Where can we find this poster?
Hey, just talking about belts, and stuff like that. Talking about belts, I meant to say actually, Steve. I think I maybe posted it up in the chat on that Russian card for the Yuri Kaczynski against Oliver Bertrand was for the vacant IBF Intercontinental title plus the vacant Euro-Asian Boxing Parliament title.
Oh, classic, Andy. We're getting into the realms of what I was mentioning to you earlier. On the 22nd of June, the Malta Boxing Commission, or BIBA as they're known now, have the WBU World title on the line, the WBF European and International titles on the line, and the recently launched, obviously, Professional Boxing Council, PBC, championship as well.
Brilliant. Tremendous, man.
What about that then?
Whatever happened to the British Masters titles and that used to get dished out?
They got rid of them,
weekend.
didn't they?
Well, that's a shame. Every other weekend they were getting fought for, man.
I think it was a robbery over.
Oh,
sorry.
Sorry, no, Steve was correct. It was the GBO heavyweight title on the line. So Ronald Johnson, clearly, this is the man that Tyson Fury should be fighting next. GBO heavyweight title. You can get the scalp. Saul Farah as well. Why not?
Yeah, I think it was a robbery anyway because everyone knows that you can't bring Bolivian matching powder to the Philippines. So he was at a disadvantage from the start in that farce of a GBH title.
GBH. I'm tweeting it out, Rob. I'm tweeting it out now, the poster, so if everyone wants to go see it.
But let's see it. Let's see the American dream versus living in America, baby. That's what we all want to see on ESPN Ocho.
There's good. Listen, see every other fucker's creating belts. We should create one and call it the HIV belt or something like that. just to be rebels, you know.
You can't get it twice.
There we are then. So that Mike Tyson could very well send someone off to Bolivian if he gets rid of old Saul Farah. I've tweeted that out, Rob, so you can go over and see it.
Saul Farah fading to Bolivian, brilliant.
Faded into Bolivian. Anything else, Ozzy, before we move on?
No, don't think so. No, I don't think there was anything.
I was thinking maybe, Ozzy, if we got Saul Farah promoting a show, maybe Prince Patel could go over there. The stars would sort of align, create some kind of space vortex.
Yeah, I mean, it's another country to tick off for the Prince as well. Get out in Bolivia. I mean, he's been all over recently. And where was he in Egypt? Like I said, he's the main man at the Budapest Fight Club. So let's get him out in Bolivia. Saul Farah can matchmake, promote, and again, let's get him refereeing. This is what I want to see. He's a man of many talents, and we all know that if Farah decides to hang up the gloves, he's still got ample opportunities in boxing to take advantage of. So a real servant is what people may call him.
Well said. All is not lost for Saul Farah. There's plenty more to come from him. Plenty more to come from us as well. Can't believe, Dave Lowback, it's 20-10 and we're only getting on to the fun from the weekend. We'll talk about Dorticos against Andrew Tabiti very shortly. Before we do so, this was one of you like me, Dave, have been watching the game for a long time, and this is one of the more stranger episodes I've seen over the years. Maris Bradis against Krzysztof Glowacki. Let's go through it then, Dave. So in the second round, Glowacki throws a shot which seems to hit Bradis behind the back of the head. Bradis is a bit angry, so he dropped an elbow right on the chin of Mr. Glowacki, who goes down. Robert Bird is taking no shit whatsoever. He basically says, get back up again. He must have seen it from some angle because he deducted a point from Bradis. Whether he felt that he had to or not, I don't know. Anyway, this round goes on and on and on. Right, turn me off. Don't want to hear me twice. This round goes on and on. A few people have been criticising the Latvian Boxing Commission, saying that the bell wasn't loud enough, but Bradis admitted that he heard it, carried on punching. Robert Bird appeared to hear it from what I saw, but was shouting at them to stop rather than jumping in the middle, seemed a little bit unsure of himself. Anyway, they got back to the corner. The Polish people's corner are going absolutely bonkers by this point, rightly so. Robert Bird says go away. In the third round, Glowacki is still dazed from the elbow, dazed from the knockdowns. He gets stopped inevitably. Bradis marches on to the final, Dave. What on earth do you make of this?
All right. Well, from what I've heard, I did not hear this announced officially by the MC, but I heard this on Twitter from a couple people that
the wife
Adelaide Bird was indeed scheduled to be judging this fight. So she was judging it. Her husband's refereeing it. I don't know if that's a conflict of interest or not, but whatever. I think that
there's some sort of interest because I was at Usyk against Huck, and they two appeared at the weigh-in as well, all cozy with certain people.
I'm sitting over the breakfast table like, don't like that fucking Glowacki. I fucking hate that Glowacki.
Normally, I've said Bird is like a competent, like reasonably competent ref. Obviously, his wife is a shit judge, but I feel maybe he was deliberately letting Glowacki get his ass beat so that he wouldn't have to, his wife would never have to judge, and like she wouldn't have another major scandal on her name.
Dave, are we too harsh on these people? Do we treat them like robots? Do we only remember whenever Robert Bird is making bad decisions? Do we forget about all the good fights that he's had and we forget that these are humans? He maybe can't hear the bell. He's trying to react within a split second, and we have a chance to watch all these things on multiple replays, come on here and form an opinion. He has to make a decision right there. I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
No, yeah, you're right. I mean, he's not the youngest guy either. The bell was hard to hear. That's on whoever's sanctioning the fight, I guess, or whoever the hell picks the bell. That was a shitty bell. It was quiet. Bradis heard it. He didn't care, and it's not on him to stop either. I thought Bird actually did well taking the point off of him. The elbow, it was worse than the rabbit punch, sure, but it was in response to the rabbit punch, and I don't think that it hurt Glowacki that badly. I think it was definitely dirty. The point was taken, good, but Glowacki seemed like he was okay to keep fighting. The real damage that was done with the fists. So as far as I could tell, it was a legitimate ass kicking. And it was kind of as ridiculous as the whole thing played out. I thought it was kind of good to watch. It was accuracy, it was punching power from Bradis. I still think he's the man at cruiserweight. I would have loved to see him against Gassiev, but it looks like we're going to see him against Dorticos, which is also good. And hopefully, I mean, I would be happy to see Bradis move up. If he does indeed unify cruiserweight without Usyk there. But yeah, it was kind of fun. It was shitty. It was exactly what you'd expect from a foreign country officiation, although it was our people over there officiating.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard a few Americans moaning, saying that you shouldn't have fights in Latvia. It's the backwater. They're absolutely useless. But it was your lot who were, I mean, what like, you can't blame the Latvians, really, can you?
Well, I blame the Latvians for choosing those.
They could have put
particular
Mercury in the Birds hotel room.
Eastern Bloc conspiracy.
I blame the Latvians for the shitty quiet bell. I don't blame Bird for not hearing the bell. I do blame him though for the shambles afterwards. Like he like looks around confused. He's like, "What's going on?" And then he kind of waves his hands in the air like it's over. But then the fight went on into the third. So he didn't know what was going on, and he's too old, I think, for this.
Didn't he referee that farce that was McGregor and Floyd?
I think he did, yeah.
And didn't he have a couple of moments in that where he broke it up for a low blow one time where he let Floyd turn his back, and there was just a couple of moments in that where he just seemed under the lights.
Which is crazy to say. Like, you give Floyd a break against a
but that's what I'm saying. Like, I thought like he didn't. I know that was a horrible fight too, but I thought he didn't have the best night that. So maybe he suffers under the lights or whatever. But I think he's been good.
He's in the wrong game, then, Rob. I think, isn't he? He's in the wrong game if he suffers under the lights.
He's a bit older. I think, like Dave said, I think he might be getting a bit. I don't know.
He's no Jack
hesitant.
Reed.
Yeah, a bit hesitant to make decisions or whatever. But he has been good over the years, though. He hasn't been poisoned by any means. Like.
Yeah, I'm mainly going to blame him for kind of being out of control when he did realize the bell was ringing. I'm not going to blame him for not hearing it necessarily because, refs can't always. It's a kind of common thing, especially if the crowd's going absolutely mental.
The bell was ringing for about 6 seconds all the same, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was like a school bell.
No, it's a disgrace. He should fuck off and retire if he can't hear that bell, because it was clearly ringing. And then when he did hear it, he didn't even jump in. He was just shouting at him, shouting at two guys punching each other, stop boxing. And he should just if he can't hear things like that now, just do once in a bit, because it was a joke. And the way he handled the elbow as well. I mean, if he saw that, it's just assault. It's just assault. That I get, like, if someone stuck an headbutt on that, I always remember Bradley Skeet did it against Reno Garrido and butted him straight away. And Steve Gray stepped in and threw him out there because you can't do it. And you can't elbow somebody like that. If you did that in the street, you'd get arrested. Simple as. And he should have been thrown out, Brady. So absolutely no time for that whatsoever.
I think this is going to get turned into a no contest.
I said, this will be turned into a no contest, this, without a doubt, because, like you said, there was just too much. I mean, I don't begrudge Bradis for. I mean, he heard the bell. He heard the bell fine, but I don't expect him to stop boxing. There's a referee there for the reason to do that. But again, Bird was just incompetent, and then he just saw his mongy misses like peering through the ropes as well, like probably thinking, "What the fuck are we doing?" But she's probably pleased because she's finally got the light taken off her, and it's just going to the other fella instead.
He's 77 years old, by the way.
Is he really?
He is.
He shouldn't be refereeing then. There should be an age. People are, at the end of the day, you need to be fit and ready and things like that. And in my opinion, at 77, how are you in any sort of state to get in between guys at the best part, 200 pounds each, laying into each other and things like that? No chance. He should not be in there anymore.
You see Statham trying to pick up these scorecards after that chaos, by the way. It was like limping, and he's like he was fucking like carrying an injury or some fucking shit. Yeah. But no,
I've no doubt in the past. Sorry, Andy. I've no doubt in the past that like he was a decent referee and things like that. But the guy's 77, and like you say, if you're having problems like hearing the bell and things like that, I don't think the atmosphere, was like raucous and really loud and things like where you couldn't hear the bell. It was a decent atmosphere, but it wasn't that bad. So for me, it was an absolute shambles from the officials, and Bradis has done himself no favours whatsoever, coming out saying, one, he heard the bell, and two, he purposely meant to elbow him. For me, if he's saying stuff like that, without a doubt, it should be chalked off and no contest, and an immediate rematch should be ordered, which then again puts the tournament on hold. But in terms of being fair and clarity, What else do you do?
Well, straight afterwards, a guy on Twitter, Gerwin, tweeted me, and he said that he had been at a fight in Latvia before, and the atmosphere was absolutely bonkers. Like, it was really, really loud, and you couldn't hear anything. But then Bradis admitted that he'd heard the bell. So I mean, you don't really.
Yeah, if the fighter, who in reality is fucking going hell for leather, can hear the bell, then so can the fucking referee, without a doubt. It was an absolute joke what it was last night. Made a mockery of it, and literally Glowacki fucking suffered from it as well. Because like I said, it was a full-on elbow, and then he got leathered after the bell as well. He was gone, absolutely gone. I'm surprised his corner didn't kick off, because they can be mad fuckers, the Polish and things.
Well, they
like
did
that.
to a certain degree, didn't they? But they kept it quite well reserved, I thought.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, I thought they were quite, for the grand scheme of things, I thought they were quite, like pretty laid back. I mean, I'd have gone absolutely ballistic at that.
I wonder, Gabe, how much the fact that it was in Latvia, Bradis was the hometown fighter, comes into play, because I know we always want a referee to just referee the situation, or a judge to score the fight based on what's going on in the ring. But I was having a conversation with somebody recently about this. You have to take into account sometimes the gravity of the situation. Like whenever Michael Griffin's stopping AJ, for example, against Ruiz, he's not just looking out for the health of a fighter or assessing what's in front of him there and then. There's a gravity behind that situation. There's a big cash cow in front of him. It's the same as if Canelo gets wobbled or something. All of a sudden the referee has to weigh up all these different factors. You're not just stopping a fighter. You're not just looking out for his welfare, Gabe. There's a big money machine behind this. You're going to be scrutinised to kingdom come, the way Howard Foster was, the way Adelaide Bird herself was. What I'm saying is, on a lesser level, is Robert Bird here, playing to the hometown crowd?
I think that's a really interesting idea. I'll say first about what I thought happened. When Glowacki, I can't even say his name. Yeah, sorry. Whenever Bradis got hit behind the head, I thought he did what, maybe the elbow was a bit excessive, but I thought he did what I would tell my fighter if I were a trainer, or what I think.
I agree with you, Gabe. I didn't think it was as bad as Ozzy is saying.
Is it because he was in position as well for the elbow to come back, the way they'd sort of landed between each other?
Certainly he was.
Like,
but
fuck off, would you? That type of thing.
Purposefully.
Yeah.
So I can see that. I don't believe he should have been disqualified at that point, strictly because of the fact that he was retaliating for a rabbit punch. If you're going to play fucking dirty, you better expect somebody else to play dirty back with you. And that's always been the point that gets made. Protect yourself at all times. I mean, we've seen it time and again. And you hear referees say it during fights when there's a low blow or a bad maneuver by one opponent. They always say, don't retaliate, or something along those lines. But I don't see how in a sport where your intent is to be violent and to hurt someone, why you would let someone hit you with a punch behind the head and not retaliate. I think it was a bit much.
I think American referees sometimes are more likely to give you a warning. Remember Victor Ortiz headbutted Mayweather, and Joe Cortez just gave him one, didn't even take a point. It just was like, come on, don't do that, and then got smashed out. I couldn't see that going down in the British ring somehow, like a direct elbow to the chops being tolerated without being fucked out. Like,
I don't think, Gabe, that Bradis' intentions were necessarily to do damage, and it was a little instinctive, but I still think that it was pretty bad all the same.
It was. I do think it wasn't good, but I think in the context of the whole little stretch of events there, where he was rabbit punched first, and that wasn't just a tap behind the head either. It wasn't, a knockout powerful shot, but it wasn't a little pity pat either. In the context of that event, then I think you have to consider what Bradis did as a retaliation, be it maybe a bit much. But I don't feel like you could eliminate him based on that action because of what happened just seconds before. I think Robert Bird, however, was just confused as hell in the fight. I don't think he knew what was going on. I think the bell was maybe so what I'm thinking is the bell sounded differently to him than it does in the States when they ring the bell, or he couldn't hear it as well and thought it was something else. I can't really explain that part of it to you. I don't think he did it intentionally the way that he did, but I think your initial idea is interesting because at any point in time, a referee knows what's going on in a fight. They know what's going on before it. They've been made aware that certain people do certain things. I don't think that you'll ever be able to eliminate that idea that certain referees or all referees will have an image in their mind of what's going on and seek to protect their reputation and their likelihood to be placed in another big event on what's going on, based on the big money fighter, the house fighter, the upset. I don't think that you can eliminate all those things because boxing, like every sport, has unique characteristics of human qualities. And unfortunately, one of those things is human error. I just feel like Robert Byrd did a terrible job. Let's not try to say he didn't do a bad job, but I don't think he did it with any intention of trying to do any favors for Bradis. I just don't feel like that was the motivation behind it. I think he's old as shit. He probably shouldn't referee again. If you can't hear the bell, then there's no reason for you to be in there. Absolutely none. If he were in position better, he could have separated them right after the rabbit punch too. So there was a lot of flaws in there where Byrd made mistakes. But that's kind of how I feel about it. I keep seeing a lot of people saying that they think Bradis should have been DQ'd. And I don't feel like that's really the case. I think it was a little bit much. I think it was a little bit more than what needed to happen in his retaliation. But to be perfectly honest, I would tell my fighters, or I would myself, if somebody does something dirty, I'm going to retaliate with it. So you don't try to pull that shit again. I mean, you got to think about it. These are like I said, a sport that's where you're trying to inflict damage, and those rabbit punches are pretty serious. We've seen the consequences of those rabbit punches manifest over the years in a lot of ways. It's already dangerous enough without somebody hitting behind the head. So I don't think anything was wrong with what Bradis did, but I think the referee job was just terrible.
Twitter are getting stuck in on this one. 1984 Gort said, just watch some of Saul Farah on YouTube. Haha, what a chancer. Craig Shuttleton said, should defo be a no contest. He's talking about this one, obviously, Bradis against Glavaki. 77 years old, should never be in there. And John Griffiths is asking if the GBO title is the one Eubank Jr. is fighting for next. Hopefully so. Andy, Hater Dave did say that most of the damage was done by Bradis with his fists, but that was probably after the elbow had been dropped in. Where do you stand on elbow gate and bell gate as well, Andy?
Well, on the telly, it sounded like the bell was clear enough to me anyway.
Yeah, I thought so.
But I know Chris Williamson was there last night. I'll have a chat with him to see if he heard it and stuff like that. To be honest, I don't think the crowd was all that bad. No, honestly, it's just, if you can hear it on the telly, you would think you can maybe hear it in the background as well. And plus, he's like what 5-10 feet at max away for the bell, so to speak, in that at times. So that said, he's just lost absolute control of the fight. He could have. I don't know if it's in the rules and that he could have gave Galahad a wee bit more time to recover. I don't know if that's in the rules and stuff. He did kind of basically demand. Oh, see, this is the bit that stick well with me. He takes a point off Bradis right after the elbow. Galahad goes down off the elbow, but next minute he's demanding him to get up. He doesn't know how badly hurt he was off that, and then obviously he takes a shot after the bell, which really then bangs him up badly. He never recovered for that. I think probably the worst thing that Galahad probably did actually was get in there in a bit of a shootout. But I agree with what Rob was saying as well. I think I think they would maybe call it a no contest, but just with this tournament situation, you just don't know how contractually and legally this is all going to stand up. And that this could end up getting really messy, especially if Galahad's team might end up having to kick up fuck about it. But they might pay him off in the background and keep him quiet. And that I really don't know about. But was just a shambles from start to finish.
Andy, do you know why I think he told Glavaki to get up quickly? I've seen referees do this before. I think he told him to get up because he didn't want it to turn into a situation. Because the longer that Glavaki rolled about on the floor, the longer it could have been turned into a no decision or a no contest, or I'm going to have to make a decision here. I'm going to have to either count him out or sort something out. I didn't really see what happened, maybe. Don't really know. Something's gone down here. The longer Glavaki's rolling about on the floor, the longer Bird's going to have to make a decision. Do you remember we talked about this before? The late Marlon B. Wright, I think it was refereeing Dimitrenko against Parker in New Zealand. Didn't Parker hit Dimitrenko with was it a body shot as he was going down or something? And Dimitrenko was rolling about, and then Wright just started counting him out. It was like he wanted to make a decision, to get things over with before it got murky, and he maybe didn't really know what was going on. And I'm thinking this was the case with Bird.
Saying that, maybe Bird's been told that this fight has got to go past 4 rounds, because the last thing that tournament needs is actually as a non-decision fight. And
there you go.
That fight having to get remade for 3, 4, 5 months down the line, and then you've got your own problems on top of that. Purses, arenas, and that, get another undercard sorted out and stuff. There's a few variables, I suppose, in that as well. But it was just awful. I says I thought it might have turned into a really good fight and stuff, but it's just only Galahad will know how badly that elbow hurt him. But I need to go back and watch it. Did Galahad stop fighting after the bell was sounded? Did he keep punching again? I'm trying to remember. Anybody want to chime in with that?
Can't remember, Andy, to be honest. I think he was trying to throw back. He had little choice.
I think he was pretty.
Def clocked him after the bell. He hit him with the Thomas Molinares. Marlon Starling hit you fucking half an hour after the bell.
Thing is, though, even if Robert Bird doesn't retire, we know he'll get another fight anyway. That's exactly what the Nevada State Commission are like. How long did it take Adelaide Bird to be back ringside and start judging? Robert Bird will be back again, and we know exactly that. But there should be something brought in. I mean, he's clearly not in a fit state to officiate properly. We're not talking little like 4 and 6 rounders here. These are high-profile world title shots, and like I said, he made a complete hash of it last night, and he failed to. Somebody mentioned it before. He didn't exactly referee well. Looking Mayweather McGregor, and that was an absolute con artist of a fight as well. So for me, he should be wrapping it up now and hanging him up for good, because somebody could get hurt again next time, and it's purely through his own incompetence.
Thing is, Andy, just to wrap it up as well, Take Ames has thrown in one in the chat. He said, to be fair, a bit of controversy is what this series needs. And what I would say is, Andy, the way we always go on about, we want conclusions, we want VAR, we want all these type of things. We love a bit of controversy too, don't we?
Oh, aye. You can't whack it, It keeps people like us in business for a couple of days and stuff like that, kind of drop the trolling and that. But to be honest, I think the last thing this tournament needs at the minute is more controversy. I think I've mentioned it in the past, but I'm just going to mention it again. See their output on YouTube that used to have like the pre-documentary and the post-fight documentary and that as well for after the fights and stuff. There's been none of that really for this series that I can recall. Maybe a couple, but there's been nothing, anywhere near the output. So I think at the minute, We've got some good finals, some good fights coming up, but I know there's been shit in the background and stuff. It is what it is again, but we need to enjoy it for what it is. I don't think we're going to get another series out of this, actually, to be honest with you. There's just been too much shit in the background. It just says to me it's maybe run its course, which is a bloody shame.
Rob, final one to you. Just moving on to the other fight on the card. Well, like I said, a lot of the Americans, a few of the YouTube channels, and that seem to be shitting on Latvia, but I think they may be taking cheap shots. It looks like a damn good night out to me. The place is absolutely packed. The place is packed out. Yeah, the place is packed out there. But what I'm wondering is, Rob, when's this final going to take place? Say Bradis, they're making a no contest or not, but even if Bradis does get through and they say, okay, he's knocked him out, we're happy with that, when's Dortico going to be ready? Because he got a pretty bad cut from what I remember against Tabiti.
Well, that's the thing about this. You could have potential hangovers from your previous fights based on the schedule. So I still think they'll make that fight as soon as possible. I know Groves and them had shoulder injuries or something before. There was something like that in before the Eubank fight, or a pushback or something. But look, they all say the WBSS is about to tank basically, and it's on its way out. So I'd love to see this format continued, but the likes of an ESPN who seem to be throwing dollars at boxing, or that's own, even whoever it is that picks it up, even if it's not the WBSS, but just to keep this same format as, like, you know, you're getting the best fighters in a tournament situation, and the number one guy comes out and he's the number one guy, and that's it. It's great. Like, so, but in terms of that fight, Jesus, it's a cracker. Like, isn't it fucking Dorticos and Bradis? Like, you're going to have action there anyway. Like, so it's going to be a fantastic final, deserved of the fighters that are in it. And, you know, it was a nasty end last night, or a nasty kind of a fight. I definitely didn't like the elbow from Bradis either. I know it's a split-second reaction, and you're just in your head, someone fouls you, you're going to foul them back. But, and, you know, low blows, I'm all for it. You hit me low, I'm going to hit you low back, like, or whatever. Even throw the head in if they're throwing the head in. But just the elbows are kind of so blatant. It did put a kind of a sour taste on the event. But Dorticos Tybiti, like, you know, I said it last night in the chat, we think we're going to have a quiet week, and we have Fury putting on a masterclass. We have controversial endings. We have controversial decisions, and then we have one punch KO as well from the KO doctor, just to go in with it. Like, so absolutely fantastic finish from him, man. Setting up a great final.
I love Danny Young's comment last night on Andrew Tybiti. He says he'll wake up outside Mayweather's gym's lying next to the bins, man. He's fuck.
I said he'd be helping Ashley Theophone and empty them.
I see he's fighting them.
He'll be on.
Yeah.
It won't be TPT anymore. It'll be Theophane team. You know one.
My God, man! The worst it was, he was showing. I think he was showing me Dortico at the same time, actually, and just opened his cell right up down the middle, and boom.
Dortico's a monster, isn't he? What was going on?
Dortico seemed to be throwing downwards with that shot too. It kind of slid off him. It didn't look like he punched through him. It was a devastating shot.
I was a bit confused by the commentary situation. Matthew Macklin seemed to think that Tybiti was absolutely walking it early on, but I think Macklin might have been getting. I think Macklin really thought Tybiti was like giving him a boxing lesson, but I think Macklin was getting confused.
He's gone shite, Macklin, isn't he?
He was confused between the two fighters because he says Tybiti's really cutting off the ring well now, and I'm thinking, cutting off the ring well? He's been running around the outskirts of it for the last 8 rounds.
He was backing up all night.
So
no, Macklin's got to the dogs. He was brutal on the AJ Ruiz card as well. He just kind of repeated what Paulie was saying. Like, I thought he was shocking on that whole night. Like,
you could do worse than repeating what Paulie was saying, I suppose, though, couldn't you?
Yeah, but that was it. It was like he didn't know really how to call it himself. He was like, I'm just going to agree with this guy who knows everything.
Ozzy, word to you on Dortico to Tybiti. It was a good scrap, wasn't it, I thought? Although Tybiti got quite negative and started to gas out after about 7.
Yeah, it was enjoyable, and what a finish. What a finish, and what a right hand, and it was just lights out. No one was getting up from that. It was an impressive performance. Much improved, I think, Dortico as well, and like you say, he's more than, just a big hitter, like, we were saying about Kudryashov before. He's got skills, he can box as well, and him against Bradis in the final will be very, very entertaining. Just a word on the finals as well. They're all going to be separate venues, so they're not all going to be on one show, and they're going to be in September, October, and November. I think the final, what fighters on what dates are still to be confirmed, but they're the months that the finals are going to be taking place.
And
I temporarily forgot
Robert, sorry.
Macklin's affiliation to NTK. So obviously, I did anything that I said about Macklin.
What did you say, Rob? Repeat that. Sorry, I just lost you at the end there.
Yeah, I lost you as well, Rob.
I think he was saying how great MTK were. We can all get on board with that sentiment, I think. Yeah. I think Rob's been muted. Regarding the finals, Ozzy, so remind me, we've got Dortico against Bradis. We've got Donaire against Inoue.
Taylor Prograis.
Prograis.
I tell you what, they're 3 decent. I mean, obviously, Inoue is going to smash Donaire.
Imagine those 3 fights can put on the one card? Ho, 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 ho. I tell you what, fuck off any undercard, man. Just give me the 3 fights.
You'd rather you take that one, you just those 3 fights alone. But like you said, they're gonna split them up, and to be honest, it does make sense. Like, imagine just shoving them all in September. Like, it gives you would like to think the cruiserweights are going to go in November, so Dortico should have the time to hopefully recover comfortably from the cut to get back in camp. But like you said, Andy, as well, if the appealing it does get turned to a no contest, will Bradis and Glowacki have to go at it again in terms of the tournament, or will Bradis just be shoved through and they'll pay off Glowacki?
Yeah, I think so. They'll fudge it, won't they? Push Bradis through and say, Glowacki, you can have a shot, or we'll do, give you a few quid or something.
You have a shot at the winner.
There's
on the undercard and give you a lot of money for that as well.
It's a good point that was. I mean, I think someone should maybe put that question to Cali actually, because he's been quite vocal on the point in the past, especially in that Grove Smith situation when Groves had the injury. He's saying as well, the fight's got to happen on this date because the people who are in the background and stuff like that were basically demanding the fight goes ahead or someone steps in. So it'll be interesting, as you say, but as I said, and Steve probably agrees with me on that as well, I think there would be a wee fudge. And if they get another series and stuff, they'll maybe, go back in it. But one thing we've missed out on actually is the situation with the titles. What the fuck happened?
Yeah,
WBC.
I saw something about the WBC withdrawing their sanctioning from it due to something about respect.
Well, this is what they said, Ozzy. They said
respect.
Mauricio Sullivan said the WBC withdraws its sanctioning of the Bradis versus Glowacki fight. The administrators of the World Boxing Super Series tournament have failed to maintain the integrity of the bout and have disregarded the WBC rules and regulations. I mean, the WBC talking about integrity. That's like Rolf Harris frigging moaning about childcare regulations. Too much red tape.
What rules and regulations do they have? So it's not like the IBF, there's a £10 limit the day after. What have they actually got?
I'll just say one name, Steve. Graziano Rocchigiani.
Yeah, exactly. They should learn their lesson.
We'll leave that name there. So we'll talk about morals and fucking rights. This is we be crooks, by the way. You want me? Listen, give me a fortnight and I'll dig up every fucking slight and wrong. By the way, can we just say, Steve, one of the punches for the past episode, Zamora against Zarate, because of these fuckers, that fight was never unification. It was never a 15-round fight. The most natural fight in Mexico to be made at the time, they couldn't make it because of fucking politics between WBC and WBA and all.
WBA, that's right, yeah. Well said, Andy. That's coming out at the end of this month. He's 100% right. The WBC were trying to pull a swift one, weren't they? And I think Cali maybe turn around and told them. What do you think, Rob?
No, I'm not having that, guys. You're forgetting about the WBC Pearl Belt that's bringing peace between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. I'm just wondering where would the WBC, when the troubles in the north were going on, we could have done with an IRA belt and an LVF belt. Just to cool things down.
UVF Intercontinental.
Oh, that would be brilliant, mate.
Mad Dog Dom Ingle training everyone.
Dom Adair.
Rob, I think it's India and Pakistan. You've created beef between the Saudis and Pakistan.
I can't keep up with the WBC. They're peacemaking all over the continent, so I don't know.
I just think the front of them, by the way, these are the people who are making up fucking belts after ancient civilizations just to put their name against a fucking fight. Yet they're thinking a good fight in the cruiserweight division. You're like, nah, fuck that, guys. Without we associated with yous. Fucking assholes.
Right, yeah, let's forget about the WBC. We'll put them all for Bellew of the Week. I think we'll park them there and let's move on. Right, the Latvian Commission are going to have me on timekeeping at this rate. It's 10 past 10. We're going to have to get onto the stuff for next week and then on to Bellew of the Weeks and then out of here. So I'll give you each a show and then we'll finish up. A couple I'll mention myself first of all. We'll not get bogged down by these. Ashley Fearfane, as Andy mentioned, is fighting in an 8-rounder against Fahim Khan. If anybody wants to go down to your call next weekend. 21 fights on that Mickey Elliott show, no less. So you'll get your money's worth on that one. Over in Spain as well, Sergio Garcia. He's the guy I think beat Ted Cheeseman. He's 29-0, European super welterweight champion. He's defending against Sergei Rabchenko. So that'll be a good little test for Garcia over in Spain. Right, Gabe, let's go over to Las Vegas, Nevada. Just picture yourself at ringside there next Sunday. We always forget about the Sunday fights. Sunday boxing is shit, says Gabe. What about this for a card? Jamel Charlo going in against Jorge Cota. He's such a good opponent, Cotto. I haven't even bothered clicking on him to see who he's fought. Ledwan Barthélemy is on that card as well against Jose Cayetano, who I think might have fought. Did he fight Leo Santa Cruz or I can't remember anyway. And then Guillermo Rigondo gets in against Julio Seja, which could be a good fight as well, Gabe. So what do you reckon then? Rigondo, Charlo, and Barthélemy. Is this enough to get you going on Fox Sports next Sunday?
Well, you all know my ultimate fanhood of Rigondeaux. Of course, that's enough. I still love watching the guy fight. I still don't think there's anybody that I enjoy the same that I enjoy watching him fight. It's just really, really fun to watch to me. Of course, he's had a few fights that haven't been great. Even for someone like me who's pretty much a diehard fan of his. But that's good enough for me to watch it. The other two fights are actually ones I care about less. I mean, the Charlo brothers, they're not doing anything. Just kind of hanging around, fighting whoever comes up, whoever will take the fight, whoever they can get their hands on. Which, I mean, I guess in some ways is to be respected because at least they're fighting. But at the same time, it's not really all that enthralling because there's no meaning to it. It's really just like the career of Leo Santa Cruz. There's just not much point to it at this stage.
Gabe, can I just interrupt you, sorry, just briefly, with an update on Mr. Cota, who is fighting Charlo. In 2012, he suffered his first loss by knockout to Marco Antonio Rubio. No shame in that. He battled back to fight Erickson Lubin in 2017 and got knocked out, but he's on a good run of form. He actually lost his last fight, so he's coming in, Gabe, off the back of a loss.
Don't tell me you don't know about Jorge. You couldn't carry my Cota.
Good stuff. I mean, why this fight? I guess that's my reaction to the Charlo brothers. Is not that I don't like them, I have anything against them or anything like that. I mean, it's just it doesn't do anything for me. It's there's nothing there. Which I mean, I guess a lot of people would say similar about Rigondeaux. What is his purpose now? I mean, nobody's going to give that guy a title shot. It's just not going to happen. And even if it does, it'll be for a minor title that nobody wants to challenge for. I mean, I just don't. I don't know. Color me unimpressed on this one. I don't see much to get excited about with that fight. Maybe it's a good setup for Charlo to maybe have a good knockout and look sharp and stay active. Besides that though, there's not much point.
Gabe's not too impressed by that one. You might be impressed by this next Friday evening on the 21st of June over in the Winner Vegas Casino and Resort in Sloan, Iowa. Why am I mentioning this? You might be wondering. Well, there's a bit of a human freak show on the card. Sebastian Fundora is going in against Hector Manuel Zepeda. Zepeda's 17-0, but keep an eye on this Fundora. He's quite the character, 12-0 with 8 knockouts. His nickname is the Towering Inferno. And there's a very good reason for him being called that. He's only 21 years of age, and he's a 154-pound fighter, and he's 6'7". 6'7"
So
at super welter.
He's the Prince
Have
of
we
Ireland.
seen this guy before? I think we've seen him before.
He's what? He's what? He's
6'7" at super welter.
Oh my God!
That's light middleweight.
Light middle, yeah.
I remember the Prince Arno fight at light middleweight and that. Remember that big lad striker pitch?
Ah, yeah. Port John Dudley, that's right.
I bet that's a lot of body to target, by the way. Fucking hell.
That's bonkers, isn't it? A Towering Inferno, Andy. You got to get on this one.
6'7", man. I mean, that guy's almost nose to nose with fucking Tyson Fury, for fuck's sake.
Well, he's tall as Joshua, isn't he? Isn't Joshua 6'6", 6'7", something like that?
This is fucking absurd. Like, what the fuck? He's a 6'7", 154 pounder. What's this fella gonna look like?
What's his name, Steve, again?
Sebastian Fundora. So Sebastian, as you would spell it.
I'm looking this guy up right now.
Fundor. It's on Showtime.
I've just pulled it up here. I'm trying to see if I've fucking seen this guy before. Is there any fights that I've potentially seen him in?
Well, he I don't know. He's on YouTube. He is all arms and legs.
Well, I didn't see these. I didn't see. Did you see that one in February on that Santa Snooze card against Rivera? Because I didn't fancy watching that shit. So if he was on that, I must have missed it. But I need to catch this guy. Is it on TV? Is it? Did you say, Steve?
It's on Showtime, and according to MB in the chat, Andy, he's actually moved up to super welter. He's fought at welterweight in the past.
It looks like he's headlining in the fucking card as well, but looks at it. Oh, we need to watch this fight, man.
Yeah.
We need to watch this fight to say I was there. It's fucking hell.
We need to get on this guy's hype train. 6'7", 150. I thought Tommy Hearns was big.
Wait, no, I'm just going to pull up Tommy Hearns' reach at the minute because, give me a second here. Tommy Hearns' reach was 78. This kid's 73 inch. Fuck.
Wow.
There you go. He's got a little Tyrion Lannister,
Hey,
Tyrion Lannister arms.
Fundora was on a PBC event. I'm not sure exactly which one it was or what. It was obviously an undercard show, but I think you might want to keep an eye on this one for real. He didn't look too bad in the fight that I recalled seeing him in. I just had to look it up a bit because I know I'd seen him fight because he's freakishly tall. I don't remember when it was though, but he didn't look horrible, especially that you might think for a guy that tall may struggle a bit.
I know there was a middleweight around recently who fought Demetrius Andrade. I think it was Atlantis Fox or something you called him. And he was 6'5", possibly at middleweight. But yeah, this guy has actually fought at welterweight, and he's 6'7", 21 years of age. This is a dwarf Jaime Munguia. This is a new beast altogether. So let's get on the Sebastian Fundora. Fun time, Fundora. Anyway, Andy, let's get you stuck in on another. Stuck in on another card. I don't have to talk some shit, don't I? Bethnal Green, Andy, next Friday night. Ted Cheeseman going in against Kieran Conway. I actually left Box Nation on the other night by mistake, and it went on to Ultimate Boxer. I think it was about 11:15 on Friday night. And this young Kieran Conway happened to be fighting against another fella called Khan Hawes, I think it was, and he actually showed a few good moves. Conway, he's fighting Ted Cheeseman for the British super welterweight title. Maybe the winner could fight Funtime Fundora. Also, Conor Benn, 14-0, he's going in against Jussi Koivula. If Conor Benn's left hand lands, and it could be lights out. And also a decent card, actually, decent domestic fare. Craig Richards at light heavyweight going in against undefeated Andre Sterling. So I think there's actually a bit of value in Eddie's card there.
Is there? I'm not giving a fuck about it, to be honest with you.
Oh, come on.
It's more a kind of card for Aussie and stuff. I mean, the Finn, for example, is fighting Conor Bennett is okay. He's I don't know what age he is now. I've seen one of these fights now, and it's like the Finnish boxing scene is weird as fuck, man. I'm telling you right now.
He's 35, and he's 35.
Yeah. I mean,
35.
So I know he's been in with some decent fighters and stuff, but you would think Ben. I don't know, man. I really don't know about this card, Steve, to be honest with me. This Finn isn't great. Ben isn't great, so I really don't know what to expect for it. I think if it's a close fight, Ben's going to get it on the cards. I didn't know anything about Conway, so I can't really give too much opinion on that. I just pulled the card up there at the minute. It's all full of TBAs. What's Craig Richards? Is that a title fight, Andre Sterling?
There's no title on the line, I don't think.
Eliminated for the British title.
I've seen Sterling before. Has he not been highly touted by him? Who's it he beat in the last fight? Somebody.
Ricky Summers. That's
Ricky
a good win.
Summers.
He beat Kurt Garvey as well. He's on a decent run of form, yeah.
Right, so well, it might be the only fight that I maybe keep my eye on. As I say, I pretty sure I end up watching the card, mate, in all honesty, but I haven't really gave it a lot of thought. And you know what I'm thinking about these cards these days anyway for these Sky cards. I mean, there's another thing. Actually, I heard Barney Francis apparently left the boxing team. Is that right?
Yeah, that could be a blow. That could be. I'm wondering now with this whole new DAZN thing. Apparently, DAZN are setting up camp in Leeds. Someone was telling me, and Sky are supposed to be having undercover talks with Heyman, who was originally going to be with ITV. So Sky are getting a contingency plan in, but Barney Francis is gone.
Well, you see, the whole content's kind of went down the shitter and stuff, but Steve, to be honest, mate, I've not really got much opinion on this card whatsoever, mate.
No problem. Ozzy, I was just saying, compared to some of the recent fare, I was going to bring you on in the MTK show, but you can speak about this if you want. Compared to some of the stuff they put out recently, like that Jordan Gill show, wasn't it, in Nottingham? I think this is a step up. It's not too bad.
Well, this is the next gen show. This is what we've got to remember. It's not their fully fledged, like Friday night, Saturday night stuff. And what's disappointing is that these next gen shows are seemingly replacing their regular, Saturday night things and stuff like that. Anything remotely decent's just shoved on pay-per-view. But Kieran Conway's no mug, I mean, he got beaten that Ultimate Boxer, but that's just a 3-round shootout.
In the fight I saw, Ozzy, he showed some good skills, I thought.
Yeah, he's quite big for the weight as well. I thought he wouldn't look small at middleweight. Never mind at 154. So, look, it's not going to... I don't think it'll be a walk in the park for Cheeseman, to be honest. Particularly Cheeseman, who is coming off that absolute beatdown against Garcia. He got absolutely battered, didn't he? And he just got tagged regularly. So
I think that Garcia's fighting next week as well, mate, to be honest. He's no fighting Rabchenko or something like that.
Yeah, I called it out earlier in Spain, yeah.
That's a poor fight, that, by the way. I think Garcia.
Rabchenko's washed, man.
Yeah, very disappointing. But no, Conway, though, I think he may cause Cheeseman some problems. I thought Cheeseman was shown to be quite basic and, like essentially one way only of boxing. It'll be interesting to see. Like I say, don't read too much into those like Ultimate Boxer prize fighter defeats, because the better for people, who essentially maybe only have 3 or 4 fights. This guy's boxed 10 and 12 rounders, and I always think it's difficult to drop back down to doing, quick 3-round bursts when you've done, like box the higher rounds before. Richard Sterling fight's a great fight. Really happy to see that. I've heard some good things about Andre Sterling. Not seen too much of him, to be honest. Craig Richards we've seen before. He battered Jake Ball last time out as well. I don't really know, to be honest. I'm not confident in picking anything with not seeing that much of Sterling, but 14-1 against 10-0, both relatively matched, similar stages of the career. There's no reason why it won't produce the goods. And then you go on to the headline of the night, which is Conor Benn against this Jussi Koivula or whatever. And you know what's going to happen if Ben gets him out of there. It's going to be like, well, Samuel Vargas wasn't able to do that, and Mohamed Mamouni wasn't able to do that as well. And in reality, I mean, the bull, he's got 24 wins. I think near enough all of them have come against just all in Finland against just garbage. So, I mean, Ben's not great, but neither's this guy. So I'm not going to be shocked if Ben wins and looks okay doing it. I mean, we know what was said in the press release during the week. Steve, if that left hand lands, it's lights out. So we're all going to be looking out on the left hand watch for Conor Benn.
Like it's Oscar De La Hoya's left hook all of a sudden coming back.
Yeah, well, he puts Oscar to shame, in my opinion. So it's all about Ben's left hook now. That's the punch of boxing that everyone's going to be talking about. And then the rest of the card, Reece Bellotti's coming back. I thought he'd retired actually after his last defeat. That Shannon Courtney's on. It's okay. Like you said, there's 2 fights on there, the British title and the Eliminator, which I'm looking forward to. The Ben fight, there's a reason they're matching him with people like this. There's loads of fights domestically that they could make for Conor Benn. I mean, they talk about Josh Kelly and things like that. There's 20 fights between lads at 140 who'd come up to 147 and current 147 fighters. Darren Tetley, who we had on earlier tonight, being one of them that would fight Conor Benn. But like I said, there's a reason they fight people like this Jussi Koivula, who 1, can't punch, and 2, aren't great. And that's because Conor Benn ain't that great either.
Thing is, when you look at these type of cards, Ozzy, and you say, oh, this is shit and everything, but compared to what I remember 10, 15 years ago, or maybe not as long as that, but anyway, sitting watching Maloney cards, Warren cards, you would have had staples of Saturday night, would have been the likes of, say, Paul Truscott defending his British title, Paul Edwards against Chris Edwards, or Ozzy Ahmed, or Nigel Wright, it wasn't any better than this. Oh, no, I'm not disputing that whatsoever either. And like I said, I think there's 2 decent fights there. In like I said, the British titles, the British title and the Eliminator and things like that. It's just a sad state of affairs that sadly, this is what the staple of the majority of shows are. A couple of competitive fights, and then what's sold now by promoters is the names rather than the quality of fights. I've always said I couldn't give a toss who fights as long as they're competitive. I'd rather watch 5 area and English title fights that probably 4 of them will produce the goods, rather than watch people like Conor Benn and things like that. Because I've always said that. There's no point in saying, oh, look, we've got Kell Brook on. Yeah, but he's fighting against like my dead nan. I mean, there's no competition.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You'd rather see competitive fights than just big names in against tomato cans, because at the end of the day, what's the point? You may as well just film them sparring or doing a bit of shadow boxing. If that's the best, or just stick them at ringside. yeah, Kell Brooks here, well, he's going to do nothing different ringside against knocking out some absolute garbage. Whereas lads boxing for area titles and English titles put it all on the line and always produce the goods. So, like we say, I think a couple of the fights will be quite decent, actually. But all in all, it just sums up boxing at the moment, isn't it? That this is what we feel is not acceptable, but is what the norm is now. And that's a next-gen show by Sky.
Yeah, I'll just mention the Ulster Hall show. We're not discussing it because we've gone way over time already. Stephen Wardley and Conroy could be a decent scrap. Tyrone McKenna against Dara Foley and Paddy Gallagher, Liam Wells. I'll probably tune in and watch that alongside the Cheeseman card. For something that you're getting on YouTube for nothing, it's pretty decent stuff. Anyway, Value of the Weeks, quite a few of these flying in. Going to have to cull some of them, cull the casuals, as they say. I'll throw a few in as well, why not? Declan Graffin, good start to the week. He's nominated Melanie Brown, who apparently is Mel B, formerly of the Spice Girls. She's a big Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade fan. Who isn't? Can't make the Andrade title fight on June the 29th in Providence, Rhode Island, says Miss Brown. But looking forward to seeing him kick ass. She then made a very profound statement. When a man fights man professionally, because that's their craft and their career, I have much respect. There is big difference. So we should put that into a meme, Rob. That really rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
Mel B respecting the man-on-man action the same way she respected the girl-on-girl action between her and Jerry Halliwell that I only just found out about. Where was that in my teenage years when I needed it?
Are you being serious? Mel B talking about Demetrius Andrade?
Do you think Demetrius is going to come into the ring wearing the old Union Jack frock or something?
Yeah. How the hell, of all the fighters to pick, she knows about Demetrius Andrade? What a random.
She's like, boo boo, you mince teasing busted you.
You know what?
Surprised she's still in fight. She bet the only one the last few years, I think. Oh dear, there you go, Mel B. Nomination from Declan Graffin there. Asgi. Who else does an interview live on Good Morning Britain with Piers Morgan and has Frank Warren in a Versace robe? Tyson Fury, that's who. Never changed champ. Terry Woodfine has nominated him for that. Dan Roan talking about Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury says Anthony Joshua is finished in boxing after the Andy Ruiz Jr. defeat. Jed 251-75340, no less, says he's still the best boxer in the world by far. Dominic Hill has nominated Jed, real person, for that. RN, quite a few people have nominated RN for saying that Errol Spence was born in Sheffield and moved to America when he was 3 years old. Sam was another person who nominated this as well. I've heard this has grown legs over the years or over the months. I've heard this a few times now that Errol Spence Jr. was born in Sheffield and moved to America when he was 3, says Aaron. So whether that's true or not, who knows? Let me know. Lee Wilson has nominated all the belts for their top 10 pound for pound, which included Chris Eubank Jr. in at number 3. I have inadvertently gone right to the end, pressed the wrong button here. This is Ahmed Terrera, managed to talk for long enough to get it back. Pulled myself back off the brink there, everybody. Turbo Tommy has nominated 450 Degrees. They put up a pizza. They're a pizza shop in Leeds. If you haven't seen Josh Warrington fight, then watch him tomorrow night. Look at this big pizza, and they put up this thing that was supposed to be the IBF belt. Looks more like Huey Fury's back, said Turbo Tommy. Quite right. Amir Khan has been nominated as well by Sam. Bellew of the Week for Amir, hanging around with hashtag Rod Stewart. Amir hanging around with Rod Stewart, as he calls him. He's a bit of a car crash, isn't he, Amir? But hashtag Rod Stewart, Rob.
I wonder has fucking Stewart got him giving him boxing lessons the same way he had Dean Holdsworth out in his back garden giving him fucking football lessons when he was about 55. What the fuck?
I haven't seen that, but that would be worth watching. Former Wimbledon and Bolton legend Dean Holdsworth.
Yeah, it's comical, man. It's on YouTube. It's before some old firm game, Rod Stewart supports Celtic, like, or whatever. But he was like paying Dean Holdsworth, flying him in by helicopter to fucking do drills with him, dribbling around cones in the fucking back garden. Like, it's fucking bizarre.
That does sound bizarre. They kind of had no idea about that, everybody. Robert Bird has been nominated as well by Ollie's Boxing Handle. Obviously, that's self-explanatory. Chris Eubank Jr. has been nominated by Box Royalty. Eubank was explaining why he wears a sheriff badge. I have been what is it? Something as a reserve deputy marshal. He's been installed, says Eubank, to inspire young men to be chivalrous, polite, honest, and kind, especially to women. Qualities expected of an ideal knight are courage, honour, courteousness, justice, and readiness to help the meek, So blessed be the meek, says Chris Eubank Senior. He's helping them. White versus Rivas. John Falcon has been nominated for saying it looks like a great scrap. He's getting ready to buy it. Todd Swain has been nominated by Richard Lodder. Brian has been on board as well with Mark Braithwaite, who has said, how long will it be before people realise that the body snatcher Dillian White is the most feared heavyweight on the planet? Hashtag Clubber Lang. Hashtag pain. Pretty painful nomination from Brian there. TKW said Galahad is making it difficult. This was midway through the Josh Warrington fight. I've got Warrington 6-1 ahead. Dave Knight, early Bellew of the Week nomination for that one. Grosvenor Sport, Anthony Joshua is still boxing's main man. AJ may have lost his unbeaten tag, but Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder can't lay a glove on his fan base. And then they put this little graphic up where it shows how many people viewed them and how many social media followers they have and whatnot. Anyway, Liam nominated that one. Shane Finnegan has nominated Bellew of the Week for the referee telling Tabiti to stay down during the 10 count as Tabiti lay on his back, eyes closed and unconscious. Yes, I don't think he was getting up anytime soon. That's all the ones that I've got for the time being. Anyone else want to throw any in while I have a look up and down the Twitter timeline, see if there's been any nominations? Andy, any from you this week?
I've got one in for Tommy, actually. He got blocked off Clarissa Shields last week. It was fucking brilliant. It was classic Tommy in that. He just, she basically tweeted out saying, why am I up so early? Tommy's back straight in there, eh? Itchy boys. I found that just appeals to my sense of humour, really. That's been a quiet week for me, actually, because obviously I've been busy with the new Bob and stuff like that, you know. But so I think what else has been kicking about apart from that one?
Well,
I'm your Can's wife.
Oh yeah.
Jesus, suffering.
Yeah, she wants to get paid a wage for the hard work she does in the house, in Amir's house. So obviously, Amir want to get the checkbook out there before she bounces. I've got one for the Nevada Commission. I think it's the Nevada Commission for telling Bob Arum that he was slut shaming Jenny Sushi by bringing up the fact that she gave the Pulev entourage lap dances. He's like, oh, she came around the gym looking for credentials, so we gave her credentials, and then Pulev, she acts like his girlfriend for the weekend. He kisses her, and I'm an old guy. I don't know how this works, but she's giving them a lap dance. And they told me I was slut shaming her.
Did you see Big Bob up on the stage last night giving that fucking loud day with Tyson Fury?
It was brilliant. Smile on Frank Warren's face, man, when they put the fucking Apollo Creed hat on Tyson Fury. He was just like, Eddie, I got you, you motherfucker.
Gabe's getting on board with Bob as well. Jason Chuckwer in the chat says Johnny Nelson. Yes, after the the WBSS, wasn't it? There's plenty of BS coming from Johnny Nelson, who said that Anthony Joshua has changed boxing when he was in the studio talking alongside Adam Booth. Also, Colin Roberts on Twitter has nominated Rob Skiff. Mr. Skiff said, might be the greatest 20 seconds in boxing history. And then he put up a little video of Fury doing the old shoulder roll against Tom Schwartz, maybe the greatest 20 seconds in boxing history. I think Mr. Schiff maybe needs to watch a little bit more. What the fuck is this nonsense? There's been another nomination coming in. Oh, it's okay. It's for Saul Farah against Ronald Johnson. People are not happy with the GBO title. Maybe we get the GBO on here. Wouldn't mind a sponsorship from them. Any nominations from you, Gabriel?
Nope.
Nothing from Gabe. Ozzy, any nominations from you? Any casuals been annoying you this week?
No, I actually think it's been quite a quiet week, actually. I've not seen that many that have pissed me off.
Okay, so let's go through them, shall we, everybody, and go on to who we're going to pick. Andy, I think the Bob Father. He's loving life at 84.
I have a late edition as well, Steve. Come to me.
Oh, no problem. I'm going for Bob. Andy, I think he deserves a Bellew of the Week nomination for his frolicking during the week. Who are you going for?
Yeah, he's been rolling back time in that. He's been doing the Q&As and stuff and talking about smoking weed and doing the prozzies with Ali back in the day. And I mean, that guy, he needs to seriously bring out an autobiography, and it'll be an absolute cry. I know people hate him and stuff like that, but he has got some stuff. He should have a book ready to go the day he dies, so he can't get fucking sued, because he should just spill a lot, like doing like tag teams with Ali and stuff like that in fucking Manila and all that type of thing. It'd be amazing, man. You have no fucks about boundaries and stuff. No Jewish guy don't give no fuck.
Oh, he's a legend. Like,
Turbo Tommy in the chat says, I'm going to say Frank Warren. He said that he thought Chisora won both fights that he had with Dillian White. It was in an IFL interview yesterday. To be fair, Tommy, I'm with Frank on the second one. I thought that Chisora definitely won that one. Oh dear, there's some good ones. Old Frank. Who are you going for, Rob? Then who's getting the vote this week?
Yeah, I just had a late one for Eric Kelly and BJ Flores because Eric Kelly put on his Facebook that Tyson Fury is not the lineal champion. It's disrespectful to other champions like Wilder, Ruiz, and Joshua. So when I jumped in to point out what the lineal championship actually meant, it was like the lineal championship means exactly what you just said. It isn't. He, and explained lineage to him. He said, it's that boxing bullshit that you guys perpetuate, as in me. So BJ, and I said, well, look, for the record, like I still think he's the number one guy in the division, just reinstated as the ring number one, regardless of whatever fucking lineal status. So BJ Flores pipes in and tags me, and it's like, who gives a shit about the Ring magazine? It's owned by Golden Boy anyway, says BJ Flores, who commentates for PPC, that's owned by Al Heyman. So nomination for two of the boys this week, trying to have a pop at me. But I gotta go for fucking the all-time great, the Bob Father, just for fucking saying slut shaming in the interview. Absolutely brilliant.
Absolute legend. Ozzy, who are you going for this week?
Yeah, I'll go for Bob as well.
Looks like it's going to be unanimous then, Gabe. I think you're dropping a Bob Arum nomination in as well. He's your vote.
Yep, absolutely, Bob.
Well done, Bob. You've won Belly of the Week. Before we go, Rob, a few people have been mentioning about your mate. No excuse for a poorly impersonation. He's fighting against someone called Lob Off, which sounds quite appropriate. Next week, I think it's like
is that next week?
I'm told.
I thought we were shaping up for a quiet week next week, and then look what you just gave me, Steve. Look what you gave me Sam Tudor a few weeks ago. I was annoyed with you. You gave me something else. But look at this. Artem Lobov versus Paulie, the fight we've all been wanting to see. Where's your balls, Artem? I would love, and I like Malignaggi. I've liked him over his career, but the way he's been actually, do you know what? I had a thought about Malignaggi while we're on it. This could finish up Bellew of the Weeks. You know, I've been saying on the pod for the last, like, say, 6 months as he's been going on these, like, sexual kind of, like, fucking scenarios between him and McGregor in interviews, insisting that McGregor's gay for the way that he carries on with him. I think he's a little bit repressed. And I remember I used to listen to his podcast From Brooklyn to the World because I was interested to hear his fight breakdowns, not knowing that he was talking about all kinds of other shit, the government and all. Like, that's what I want to hear from fucking Paulie Malignaggi. But he said that if Margot Robbie, the actress, was waiting for you in a room with her negligee, would you fucking bang Peter Cards to get to her? So I'm just wondering, is Paulie a little bit repressed? Like, is that what's going on with him behind the closed doors?
Too much spitting for my liking these days, Rob.
Too much eyebrow plucking.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, let's finish up then, shall we, everybody? On that note, thank you to everybody who's jumped on this evening. Andy Patterson, Gabe, Ozzy and Rob have stuck with us till the end. Adam Smith was on earlier as well, so was Dave the Hater Lowback. Thanks to Steve Wood right at the top of the show, and also to Darren Tetley. Hopefully he gets things sorted out. Ben Faruqi from BNTV jumped on with us as well. It's been a packed evening. 2 hours 45 minutes you've got from us almost there. Thanks to everybody in the chat, especially Jason, Chukwu and all the boys holding it up over there. Don't forget to hit like, tell YouTube that you enjoy listening to us. Go over to patreon.com/Boxing Asylum if you want that little bit more Boxing Asylum in your life. I've been Steve Wellings. Catch you all same place, same time next week. Bye.